Chapter 11:23. Qian Beibei wanted to say that she couldn't afford it. Mother Luo gave her a lot of pocket money every month. She also had a salary, but it was basically moonlight. Enicom looking at Niu Jinlan and thinking of her stubbornness, she had no choice but to agree. After returning home, she sold all the jewelry that she rarely wore in exchange for money to give Niu Jinlan a call. Mother Luo found out about the jewelry not long after it was sold. See? Fortunately, I was smart enough to sell such expensive jewelry. Niu Jinlan took the money and happily bought a house for her son. Mom, you have foresight. Brother's taste is really bad. Xiaogua is so good. She attracts money all over. Unlike this, who is a wastrel and takes everything out, Sister Luo said. Niu Jinlan's appetite was getting bigger and bigger. Qian Beibei suddenly found that almost everything that she could sell was sold out. And since she had promised Niu Jinlan, she could only do it. She had no choice but to ask Luo Yiqing for it. It's my mom. It seems that she has a cash flow problem. I can't not help, right? Beibei, you don't have to explain. I'll transfer it to you. Luo Yiqing didn't spend much money. Mother Luo prepared everything for her. Every time, a large portion of the money was left behind. After Qian Beibei gave the money to Niu Jinlan, she looked at the empty jewelry box and remembered that Guyi had transferred all his assets to Tanggua. She felt a little indignant. Then she remembered that Luo Yiqing had also transferred the money to her so easily. Thus, she decided to ask Luo Yiqing for some money from time to time. Once or twice was fine, but after a few times, Luo Yiqing couldn't help but ask. Yicheng, I just want to see how my man feels when he gives me money. And Luo Yiqing didn't suspect anything. I see. Then if you want to buy anything in the future, ask me for it. Qian Beibei underestimated Niu Jinlan's appetite and often complained to her about being poor. Now that Luo Yiqing wanted to give her money, she also spent it lavishly. Firstly, it was to satisfy her vanity. Secondly, she didn't want to embarrass herself. Niu Jinlan thought that Qian Beibei had control over the finances, so she asked for money to subsidize Qian Qingqing. Mother Luo looked on coldly. As long as there was any movement on Qian Qingqing's side, she would know. The person she got to keep an eye on was a young lad from Gu Ye's studio. He was more reliable. Finally, there was a very important gathering that Qian Beibei and Luo Yicheng had to attend. She looked at the empty jewelry box and the empty clothes rack and finally panicked. The gown and accessories had only been prepared this year, but because of Niu Jinlan, she had sold them all. She couldn't to them now. Mother Luo pointed this out in front of Luo Yiqing. Luo Yiqing suspected Qian Beibei for the first time and asked her where the money and things had gone. Qian Beibei couldn't say. Mother Luo finally told Luo Yiqing the truth, which almost angered her to death. Qian Beibei had actually used all that money to subsidize her maternal family. Adding it all up, it was more than 10 million yuan. Qian Beibei knew that Luo Yiqing had a grudge against the Qian family. Beibei, why did you do that? I can't not help them, right? Qian Beibei felt wronged. Luo Yiqing said, are they starving to death? Your brother already has several houses under his name. You were the one who moved them over. In the end, this matter was left unsettled. But Luo Yiqing didn't like Qian Beibei. But Niu Jinlan didn't stop. She was still asking Qian Beibei for money. Qian Beibei couldn't pay, so she cried in front of Qian Beibei. At the peak. Chapter 11:24. She said that Qian Beibei was unfilial. She was a rich wife, but she couldn't take out any money to help her family. Enicom Qianbei didn't dare to say that she was poor and couldn't take out the money. She couldn't even pretend to be rich. Inadvertently, she saw an online loan. She borrowed a large sum of money from the internet and gave it to Niu Jinlan, saying that this was the last time. She planned to pay back the money slowly, but she didn't expect that the online loan company would soon call to ask for the debt. She didn't have the money to pay back, so she called Luo Yiqing's company. At that time, the employees in the company looked at her strangely. When Luo Yiqing heard that Qianbei had lent a few million yuan to Niu Jinlan online, she was so angry that she almost fainted. Now, with the interest, it was tens of millions. "Call the police," Mother Luo finally said. "Let's get back the money that the Qian family got from Qianbei first. We'll talk about the rest later." Qianbei looked at Luo Yiqing's disappointed face. Her face was pale, and the corners of her lips moved, but she didn't say anything in the end. Niu Jinlan was a shameless person, but Mother Luo wasn't someone to be trifled with. She found the transfer records and confronted Qianbei, asking her whether the money was lent to Niu Jinlan or given to Niu Jinlan. Qianbei was stared at by Luo Yiqing. She lowered her head and said, "I borrowed it." She knew her mother's character very well. Now that Yicheng was disappointed in her, she couldn't make any more mistakes. After the money was recovered, the online loan company only paid back the principal and the interest due to the involvement of the police. But the online loan company was closed down in the end. Qianbei and Luo Yiqing couldn't go back to the past. Luo Yiqing put all her efforts into the company. Qianbei was afraid that Luo Yiqing would leave her behind, so she didn't care about her children and worked hard every day. But her mind wasn't here, and she didn't recharge in time. After a few years, she reached the end and couldn't improve anymore. She also wondered if Luo Yiqing would be seduced by the female secretary as he became more and more outstanding. She often went to see Luo Yiqing when she was free. Once Luo Yiqing scolded her, her eyes were filled with tears, and Luo Yiqing couldn't say anything. In the end, Luo Yiqing replaced all the secretaries with men, and Qianbei became less frequent. Unknowingly, the children of Qianbei and Luo Yiqing were already in their teens. This child had been taught well by Mrs. Luo. He was not close to Qianbei, who did not care about him. He could remember things since he was 2 years old. To this day, he still remembered the look of disgust in Qianbei's eyes. Later, when she heard about what Qianbei had done, she looked down on her mother and even felt that it was a disgrace. But because of Mother Luo's upbringing, he never showed it. As for Luo Yiqing's father, he was not close to him. The only people he was close to were Mrs. Luo and the eldest sister of the Luo family. Luo Yiqing's company had already become the #1 company in the country, and Tang Guo had become the richest person in the country. Qianbei's heart was filled with bitterness. She always remembered what Luo Yiqing had said to her. He had given her all the love, so he could only compensate Tang Guo with wealth. Now that she heard this sentence, Qianbei only felt that it was a little ridiculous. But she would not leave Luo Yiqing. She still loved Luo Yiqing. One day, Luo Yiqing would definitely give everything to her. She firmly believed. When Luo Yiqing's company reached the world rankings, Tang Guo's wealth also entered the world rankings, and he became a world-famous person. He was the first rich person to be ranked by investing in a company. Qianbei buried her head and did not look at these things. 30 years later, Mrs. Luo passed away. Qianbei felt that everything had come to an end. She did not expect that Mrs. Luo's will would state that all her assets would be inherited by her grandson. The Peak. Chapter 1125. Even Luo Yiqing's shares were all under their son's name. She didn't even know when he had given it to her. Looking at the white-haired Luo Yiqing who was still working hard, she couldn't help but say, Luo Yiqing. Bebe? Qian Bebe cried. Can you stop and look at me? Why are you working so hard? The person who owned the shares is dead. She donated all her shares. Luo Yiqing, you don't have to work so hard anymore. No, I have to. After all, I promised her that I would work in this company as long as I'm alive. Even if he had to retire to the second line now. It's a pity that she didn't become the richest person in the world. I guess she's regretful too. At this moment, Qian Bebe suddenly realized that not only did she not get Luo Yiqing's money, she also didn't get Luo Yiqing's heart. Luo Yiqing's heart had long belonged to that woman since some time ago. However, he didn't realize it himself. Luo Yiqing, do you love me? Luo Yiqing paused and looked carefully at the white-haired Qian Bebe. She said, Of course, Bebe. I gave you all my feelings. I love you. Luo Yiqing, I love you too. Qian Bebe said with a smile. In fact, they didn't love each other anymore, right? True love. What was true love? If Luo Yiqing loved her, would he be unwilling to come back to accompany her even after working overtime for decades? If she loved Luo Yiqing, she wouldn't be thinking about when Luo Yiqing's mother would die every day and how to get more money from Luo Yiqing. In fact, they didn't love each other anymore. They maintained such a loving relationship because they didn't want to slap their own faces. Who would have thought that this deception would last for a lifetime? Under the light, Luo Yiqing smiled and was writing a proposal. Qian Bebe turned around and left. He had no intention to stay, nor did he ask Luo Yiqing if she was hungry or tired. If she loved him, she would definitely care about his health and ask him not to stay up late and work overtime. If he loved her, he would definitely stop her and ask her to wait. It was not safe to go home alone. Xiaogua, in a few more years, I really won't be able to work anymore. I can't work in the company for the rest of my life. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm old and useless. You're leaving too early. If you wait a few more years, I'll definitely make more money for you. You might even be able to rank in the top 10 of the world's richest people. Luo Yiqing nagged as she wrote the proposal. Bei is probably angry again. She's always like this. How many times have I told her that I've given all my love to her? Otherwise, I wouldn't have married her. You agreed to marry me without hesitation. There wasn't even a proper wedding, nor was there any blessings from your family. Everything was done on impulse. In order to protect my reputation, I agreed to it. You wasted 3 years on me. You even supported my career and took care of my family so well. You even made our Luo village rich. This company is my blood and sweat, and it's also your blood and sweat. I said that I would work hard for you and make the company the best. The only thing I can compensate you with is wealth. After all, I've given all my love to Bei, but Bei is still like a little girl. She always likes to be calculative. Xiaogua, why are you so good? Sigh. Host, does Luo Yiqing like you? So what? I don't like him. I like the stingy one. Tanggua chuckled. Let's go to the next world. I hope that he'll be more obedient in the next world. He already swore that he'll be more obedient in the next life. System, oh. Show off. Fastware, supporting female lead, Calm Down Claw Book Room 01D, Gu, Wu, Excerpt No. Time Free 05, Read 002, Peak. Chapter 1126. Princess Consort, please rest. I still have some matters to attend to. Shengguan Jing casually lifted the bride's red veil to one side and said coldly, "Since you've become my princess consort, I hope you can be reasonable and abide by the rules of Prince Jing's mansion." "Yes, Your Highness." Tang Guo replied obediently. She glanced at the man in front of her who was not happy about the wedding night and lowered her eyes. She muttered to the system in her heart, "Why did I just get married again? Well, I don't know either. But with the host's help, it doesn't matter whether they get married or not." "Don't you think so, host?" the system said weakly. Who knew which world they would randomly transmigrate to? Fortunately, he had a golden thigh early on. With the host's help, there were no problems. Shengguan Jing looked at this well-behaved lady with no interest in his eyes. Thinking that he could not be with the person he loved, he looked at this woman with disgust. Seeing that she only buried her head, he turned and left angrily. 1 ton, 1 ton and 1 t/ia. He took a few steps out of the door and took a deep breath. One day, he would snatch back the woman he loved and make her his princess consort. "You can all leave." After Shengguan Jing left, Tang Guo drove everyone out. She was curious about the story of this world. She found a comfortable position and leaned against it. She closed her eyes and began to accept the story of this world. This was an era of ancient imperial power. The person who just left was called Shengguan Jing. He was Prince Jing of Nanshu, the younger brother of the current emperor. They had the same father and mother. She was the eldest daughter of the minister, Tang Yanxin. She was a standard lady from a noble family. She smiled without showing her teeth, was dignified and virtuous, and had a quiet personality. Such a lady from a noble family was the best daughter-in-law in the hearts of the matriarchs of the noble families. She also had a twin sister named Tang Jiao. Tang Jiao's personality was the exact opposite of Tang Guo's. She was lively and active and liked to go out to play. Compared to the original owner, who was well-behaved, Tang Jiao was more lively and flamboyant. Such a personality was rare in this world and was very eye-catching. Tang Jiao was not only lively but also very talented. In fact, the original owner was also talented, but she was more low-key and well-behaved. She didn't think there was a need to compare herself with others. The way she dressed was just like her personality. She was also well-behaved. She was not as bold as the Tang Jiao. However, the relationship between the two sisters was quite good. Their relationship did not deteriorate because of the rumors outside. On the contrary, every time the Tang Jiao went out, she would bring all kinds of gadgets for the original host. Every time the Tang Jiao went out, the original host would also prepare all kinds of things for her. Over time, Tang Jiao was known by everyone in the imperial city and was praised as the #1 beauty in the imperial city. The people of Xinyue family's second Miss Tang had to line up far outside the imperial city. When the Tang Jiao was traveling, she got to know Prince Jing, Shengguan Jing, and the emperor, Shengguan Yi, who were also traveling. Her liveliness and talent attracted the two of them. Tang Jiao did not know the identity of the two and only regarded them as poetry friends. She never thought that that meeting would lead to the tragedy of her and her sister's life. After Shengguan Yi and Shengguan Jing returned to the imperial city, they sent people to inquire about the identity of the Tang Jiao. They could see that the other party liked the Tang Jiao. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1127. The two of them planned to make the Tang Jiao their woman first. In the end, Shengguan Yi, as the emperor, had the upper hand. He directly decreed a marriage. The Tang Jiao became his concubine and the family Tang's eldest daughter, the original Shengguan Jing, became Prince Jing's concubine. So what if Prince Jing was angry? Shengguan Yi was the emperor and he was just Prince Jing. He couldn't disobey the imperial edict, could he? He wanted to, but he was no match for Shangguan-yi. Besides, they were brothers. He didn't want their relationship to be broken because of a woman and be taken advantage of by despicable people. Shangguan-jing unwillingly married the original owner of the body. On their wedding night, just like when the Tanggua came over, he used the excuse that he had something to do and didn't sleep with her. The two of them started their life as husband and wife in name only. Shangguan-yi thought that since Shangguan-jing was not happy about it, he would let it go. Moreover, Shangguan-jing was still the same as before. He often went to the palace to play chess with him or went out with him to play. What was different was that Shangguan-yi would bring the Tang Jiao with him every time. The Tang Jiao couldn't accept that her poetry friends had become the emperor and the prince, and she had even become the emperor's concubine. But now that things had come to this, she couldn't resist and could only accept this identity. The emperor treated her well, so she accepted it. And she could go out to play often. There didn't seem to be much difference. The Tang Jiao and Shangguan-yi didn't expect that Shangguan-jing had been secretly looking for a strange person after he got married. He had never given up on getting the Tang Jiao back. After nearly a year of searching, he finally found a strange person who could change their memories. He spent a lot of money to invite this strange person back. He deliberately poisoned the original Shangguan-jing and told the news of the original Shangguan-jing's illness to the Tang Jiao. The Tang Jiao was worried about her sister and hurried out of the palace. Shangguan-jing took advantage of this time and asked the strange person to exchange their memories. After the original owner was detoxified, her memories would become Tang Jiao, and Tang Jiao's memories would become Tanggua. In order to prevent the original owner from being discovered, he had eccentric altered Tanggua's memory irrevocably. Once her memory was changed, the original owner would never be able to return to her original self. She would always think that she was the Tang Jiao. This way, his imperial brother, Shangguan-yi, wouldn't be suspicious. As for Tang Jiao, of course, he couldn't bear to do that. He only kept the memories that didn't belong to Tang Jiao for 10 years. He believed that 10 years would be enough. He never thought that Shangguan-yi really liked the Tang Jiao. When Tanggua was sent back to the palace, he immediately recognized that she was not Tang Jiao. But no matter how he threatened her, the original owner said that she was the Tang Jiao. He sent people to Prince Jing's residence to inquire and found that the Tang Jiao only admitted that she was Tanggua. Shangguan-yi guessed that this matter should have been done by Shangguan-jing. Shangguan-jing finally got the woman he loved. How could he let her go? He said that as long as Shangguan-yi let his consort admit that she was the Tang Jiao, he wouldn't stop him. Shangguan-yi left in anger. The two brothers had a gap and often argued in the imperial court. Shangguan-yi didn't like the Tanggua. Because they had the same face, he lost the woman he loved the most. He still resented the Tanggua. Once, when envoys from other countries came to visit Nanshu, the king of one of the countries said to him, "I have long heard that Nanshu has the most beautiful woman. I wonder if the emperor of Nanshu would like to invite her to meet him." Chapter 11:28. For people you don't like, it's okay to show them. Shangguan-yi gladly agreed and asked people to dress up the original owner and invite her out. The king of that country was very beautiful and said on the spot that he was willing to use all the treasures he brought this time to exchange for this beauty. In this king's country, beauties can be exchanged with treasures, even if it's their concubines. As long as it's not the main wife, they can exchange at will and think that there's nothing wrong with this. If this woman is Shangguan-yi's beloved, he certainly won't be willing and will even be angry. Unfortunately, this person is not his beloved woman and is even the woman that he takes his anger out on. If this woman doesn't look like his Jiao won't be exchanged. So, he agreed at that time. Although many people opposed, he still said, "She's just a concubine with a low status, why can't we exchange?" Minister Tang Yanxin is very angry, but unfortunately, the imperial power is supreme and he can't refute it. He can only watch as his daughter is taken away by the king. After the original owner was taken to that country, she died of illness 10 years later. Not long after the original owner died of illness, the Tang Jiao's memory finally recovered. She remembers everything that happened during that time. Thinking of what happened to her sister, she hates these two men to death. She already had 2 children with Sheng Wanjing. Not long after she recovered her memory, Sheng Wanyi found out. She didn't have the ability to resist and was taken into the palace. She planned to assassinate Sheng Wanyi when he wasn't paying attention and avenge her sister. But Sheng Wanyi is the emperor. How can it be so easy to assassinate him? Because he likes her too much, even if she did something disgraceful, Sheng Wanyi still doesn't mind. On the other side, Sheng Wanjing is thinking about how to save her. She is like duckweed, floating with the wind and the water. Unknowingly, the spirit in her eyes have disappeared. This is a male-dominated society. She wants to do many things and take revenge, but she is powerless. In this lifetime, she had been entangled with these 2 men. Even until her death, these 2 men were still fighting over her as if they had a grudge against each other. These 2 men had never considered whether she was willing or not. They had never listened to her opinion. Because of this, she became known as a demoness who brought disaster to the country and was cursed by the people of the world. Because of her, her children could not hold their heads high and eventually died of depression. So it's a tragedy. After reading the plot of this world, Tang Guo said, as expected, scumbags are really annoying. But the original owner of this body is really a well-behaved lady, Tang Guo sneered. When Tang Guo was young, she was devoted to Sheng Wanjing and did not hesitate to give her heart. Even when she had the memories of the Tang Jiao, she was still loyal to Sheng Wanyi. 10 years in another country, he actually died of a heart attack. Because she was abandoned by the person she loved, she died of sadness. Why are there so many women in the world who don't understand that they have to decisively give up on someone who isn't worth liking? The one who really needs their love is themselves. Maybe he's stupid. The system said weakly. It felt that the 2 scumbags in this world would definitely be miserable. Let's sleep first. The next day, the system was shocked to find that its host had become a well-behaved, gentle, and virtuous lady. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1129. Every frown, every smile, and even the way she walked were exactly the same. The host's acting skills had improved again. "Host, what's the trick this time?" he asked weakly. "This time, it's called the most beautiful loss. I want Sheng Wanjing to get used to me. I want to deeply embed my various habits and influence on him into his life. When he sends me away one day, he will find that everything is wrong. Although it's very old-fashioned, all bitches fall for it. System, the essence. Isn't this what bitches fall for? What about the Tang Jiao?" Tang Guo paused for a moment. "I'll ask Brother Qi Shao in the group for a lifelike puppet. I'll send a puppet to Sheng Wanjing and let him hug it for the rest of his life. As for the Tang Jiao's people, send them away. This girl has a simple personality. She won't be able to play with these 2 men. In this society where the imperial power is dominant, she will only be poisoned by them. Since she likes to live a free life, we'll just fulfill her wish. Leave this to me. I'll play with them slowly." Tang Guo laughed softly. The system trembled. Play slowly. Those 2 people were going to be unlucky. It estimated that in less than 2 years, those 2 people would be spoiled. Next, the system saw Tang Guo cooking with its own eyes. My dear host is serious about this. She's actually going all out to cook. After preparing a few side dishes, Tang Guo did not personally send them to Shang Wanjing. Instead, she instructed the servants to place them on Shang Wanjing's table at lunchtime. When Shang Wanjing saw that the dishes today were a little different, he did not ask much. He only thought that the chef had come up with a new dish. When he took the first bite, he was a little surprised. This shouldn't be the original chef, right? Could it be a new chef? He ate 2 more mouthfuls, and his depressed mood from not being able to marry the woman he loved was swept away. He laughed and said, "Reward the chef who cooked today." The servants looked at each other, not knowing what to say. The steward smiled and said, "Yes, Your Highness." After interacting with the new princess consort just now, the steward felt that this princess consort was indeed the daughter of a noble family. She was very reliable in everything she did. She actually cooked for their prince and even told him not to tell the prince that she made it. The butler was Shang Wanjing's confidant, so he naturally knew why Shang Wanjing was in a bad mood. Since the new princess consort didn't rely on delicious food to gain favor, he actually admired her. At this time, if she told His Highness that it was the new princess who did it, His Highness would definitely be furious. At that time, the new princess would not be able to make a comeback. He thought that the new princess consort was really good and respected him very much. Therefore, he was very willing to do this favor. Seeing Shang Wanjing's satisfied look, he was also happy. With such a new princess consort, His Highness would probably forget concubine Jiao after a while and live happily with the new princess consort. Lunch and dinner were prepared by Tang Guo personally and sent to Shang Wanjing by the steward. For several days, Shang Wanjing had already gotten used to the existence of this new good chef. Almost every day after dinner, he would say a word of reward. Seeing that Tang Guo was not anxious at all, the steward was very impressed. Then, when he saw the new princess consort making clothes for the prince and so on, he was even more surprised. This princess consort was really virtuous. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1130. Unknowingly, Tang Guo had changed Shang Wanjing's clothes from head to toe. The scary thing was that this woman had left a small mark on her clothes, shoes, and socks. The small mark was in a very inconspicuous place, but once it was seen, it was a little scary. His great host was really a scheming girl. In addition to helping Shang Wanjing prepare everything he needed, Tang Guo practiced calligraphy and painted in the room. The talent of the original owner of the body was not worse than that of Tang Jiao. She even vaguely felt that she was better. However, the original owner of the body did not like to show off. In this way, she lived in Prince Jing's mansion peacefully for half a year. Since the day of their wedding, she almost never met Shang Wanjing. Occasionally, when they met, she would leave her luggage obediently. Shang Wanjing glanced at her casually and left. The steward felt that something was wrong. The new princess was so nice, but the prince did not seem to notice. Seeing that Shang Wanjing was in a good mood today, he remembered that Tang Guo would be painting and practicing calligraphy in the garden at this time. His heart skipped a beat, and he said, "Your Highness, the weather seems to be good. The flowers in the garden have bloomed. It's boring to stay in the house all the time. Do you want to go to the garden to have a look?" The steward glanced at the painting on the desk. The ink had not dried yet. The person in the painting had a pair of lively eyes. She looked like the new princess, but this woman was not the new princess. She was the new princess's younger sister, the current concubine Jiao of the emperor. "Then let's go and have a look." Shang Wanjing put down the brush, stood up, tidied his robe, and walked out. He asked casually, "Have you found the person I asked you to find?" "Not yet. Those masters come and go without a trace. It's not that easy." Seeing that Shang Wanjing's expression was not good, the steward hurriedly said, "Although we haven't found the person, we have the news. As long as we follow them, we will find the person sooner or later. Then send more people. We must invite the master back." Shang Wanjing had also unintentionally heard that there was an expert who could exchange the memories of the two of them. When he heard this, he had an idea. He had to use this method to get his beloved Zhao back. Imperial brother has so many concubines in his harem that he needs to dote on, so he must not be able to discover the secret behind it. Once the matter was settled, he and Zhao heir would be together forever. As for the eldest daughter of the minister's mansion, he had never touched her. She looked exactly like Zhao, and he would have memories of her in the future. If he didn't say anything, who would know the truth? Walking around the garden with the steward, Shang Wanjing found a beauty who was painting among the flowers. Looking at the beauty's side profile, he subconsciously called out, "Jiao, Then, he quickly chased after Tanguo, grabbed her wrist, and was about to pull her into his arms. The woman in front of him actually panicked for a moment. She hurriedly broke free from his hand and respectfully bowed, "This concubine greets your highness." Her panic only lasted for a moment, and she soon recovered her gentle and dignified appearance. It was because of her gentleness and dignified that Shang Wanjing's joy was washed away. "So it's the princess." "Yes, your highness." The excitement in Shang Wanjing's eyes had dissipated. Since he had come, there was no reason to leave immediately. This was his mansion, his garden. Why should he avoid it? This woman had been in the mansion for half a year, but she didn't always come to him. It seemed that she was a sensible person. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1131. Then there was no need for him to hide. He would just be obedient and take care of it for the time being. "What are you doing here, princess?" "Your highness, I'm painting here." "Painting?" Shang Wanjing was a little surprised. Wasn't this miss of the minister's mansion famous for embroidery? She actually knew how to paint. With curiosity and disdain in his heart, he took a step forward. "Then this prince wants to see what the princess consort has drawn." After he finished speaking, he looked at the painting and didn't move his eyes away for a long time. The steward also looked over. When he saw the scene in the painting, he was also stunned. "I thought that princess should be painting in the garden. I didn't expect that princess should be painting a kite and clouds." The clouds were in the sky, the kite was in the sky, and the flowers were at the bottom, which could only be used as decoration. This painting gave people the feeling that it was so free and ethereal, which was completely out of place with the woman in front of him. He felt that the person who could draw such a painting should not be her. But the ink on the painting was not dry. When he came, she was painting. These could not be faked. "Princess, you've painted well." "Your highness, you flatter me." Shang Wanjing saw the chessboard on the side and asked, "Princess, do you know how to play chess?" "A little." Shang Wanjing was a little interested. "Then play 2 games with me." "Yes." Tanguo put down the brush with a faint smile on her lips. She followed Shang Wanjing to the chessboard and sat down. Shang Wanjing looked at her well-behaved appearance and sneered. In fact, he didn't like people who were too well-behaved and bound themselves to rules. Even if she painted a different painting, it didn't mean that he would treat her differently. Shang Wanjing thought that Tanguo really knew a little when she said that she knew a little. He didn't expect that she knew a little after playing for an hour, and he almost lost a little. This time, he had to look at his princess in a new light. "Princess, you're very good at chess. I didn't expect you to be a hidden person." "Your highness, you flatter me. Thank you for letting me win." "Should I?" Shang Wanjing couldn't help laughing. He had never given in to her. He wasn't an idiot. She was the one who went easy on him, and her technique was very good. If he hadn't been careful, he wouldn't have noticed. He was curious about this princess consort. System, curious. That means you're not far from the end of the game. If he realized his mistake and turned back, perhaps he could still be saved. If he refused to realize his error, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Again. Shengguan Jing was really interested in it. Tanguo played chess with Shengguan Jing for the whole afternoon. She was so good at chess that Shengguan Jing forgot everything. Even though it was a draw every time, he could feel that his opponent's strength had not been fully displayed. Seeing that the sky was darkening, he couldn't make her use her full strength. He had to admit that his consort wasn't simple. "Your Highness, do you want to eat dinner? It's getting dark." Shengguan Jing looked up and saw the setting sun. He glanced at the woman who had been sitting opposite him and said, "Let's go to your place." He wasn't interested in this woman, but he was curious about what else she could do. System, isn't that the same? He was curious and became interested. When they were eating, Shengguan Jing frowned. Tanguo hurriedly asked with concern, "What's wrong, Your Highness? Is there something wrong with your taste?" Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1132. Why does it taste different from before? He turned back to look at the steward. Did any of the cooks ask for leave? The steward found it funny. He secretly glanced at Tanguo before saying, "No cooks asked for leave, Your Highness." Then why does it taste different? Shengguan Jing asked in confusion. This prince remembers that it tasted normal at noon. The dish he just ate was far worse than what he ate in the past 6 months. The steward said, "Your Highness, this, seeing that the steward seemed to have something he couldn't say, Shengguan Jing was a little displeased. "Tell me, what's going on?" "Your Highness, don't blame the steward. Because this concubine didn't have time to cook in the afternoon, I had to ask the cooks to cook some of your favorite dishes. It's this concubine's fault." Tanguo stood up and smiled. "If Your Highness can wait, this concubine will immediately cook a few dishes and bring them up." Without waiting for Shengguan Jing to speak, she turned and went to the kitchen with her maidservant. Shengguan Jing was stunned for a moment and didn't come back to his senses for a while. When Tanguo's figure disappeared, he grabbed the steward and said with a heavy expression, "What's going on? Why don't you explain to this prince?" The steward felt a little bitter. He could only tell him that the princess consort went into the kitchen to cook for Shengguan Jing on the second day after she entered the fu. Of course, he also said that the princess consort didn't mean to ask for favor. It was just that her mother taught her that a married woman should follow her husband. She should prepare food for her husband. If the princess consort really wanted to ask for favor, she wouldn't have waited for half a year. "Today, I was playing chess with Your Highness, so I didn't have time to prepare." "Your Highness, don't blame the princess consort. She has been dutiful for the past 6 months and has never crossed the line." Shengguan Jing frowned. This prince knows. He wasn't a fool. If this princess consort really wanted to seduce him, he would have done it long ago. There were countless opportunities today. But the other party didn't. When they talked about painting, she talked about painting. When they played chess, she played seriously. Her eyes didn't even wander. There was no doubt that the eldest miss of the minister's manor was a real lady from a noble family. The housekeeper breathed a sigh of relief. Wang Fei was so good. If she was misunderstood because of this matter, it would be unjust. Shengguan Jing still felt that something was wrong and said, "Are you still hiding something from me?" The steward didn't dare to hide anything and hurriedly said, "In addition to His Highness's daily meals, His Highness's shoes, socks, clothes, and sachets were all made by Her Highness. After that, he looked at Shangguanjing eagerly, and His Highness's daily snacks were also made by Her Highness. Later on, the new tea that was purchased in the Fu was also personally selected by the Wangfei. Anything else? Shangguanjing rubbed his eyebrows. This princess was really good at housekeeping. He had heard that many madams of the mansions had taken a fancy to her. Anyway, His Highness's brush, ink, paper, and inkstone were all prepared by Her Highness herself. The things that His Highness often needed to buy were all prepared by Her Highness. Sitting there, Shangguanjing touched his cuffs. No wonder he felt that in the past 6 months, whether it was his inner clothes or his outer clothes, they were extremely comfortable. Moreover, the embroidery on the clothes was very unique. He touched the sachet at his waist and was a little lost in thought. Did she say anything when she prepared these? Her Highness didn't say anything, the steward replied. Come with me to the kitchen to have a look. Shangguanjing felt that that woman was very strange. How could there be such a good person? It was obvious that he had neglected her. They had never been together at all, but she was still willing to prepare these things. Was there something wrong with her brain? Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1133. When he came to the kitchen, he saw the woman who had played a different game with him before. Looking at the familiar food on the plate and the fragrance coming from the plate, he forgot what he wanted to ask. Your Highness, why are you here? I just came to have a look. I didn't expect Your Highness to be so good at cooking. I learned it when I was young. Mother said that women should learn it. Shangguanjing couldn't help asking, so you learned it? Yes. Tang Guo looked back and smiled. This smile was still perfect. It was not ostentatious or wanton. It was just faint, like the spring breeze, gently brushing past. When the dishes were ready, the servants brought them out. Tang Guo followed Shangguanjing. He suddenly stopped, turned around, and stared into her eyes. Your Highness, I'm very curious. Why did you deliberately do this? Do you think that by doing this, you can make me like you more? These words could be said to be cold and heartless. System, of course, to play you to death. What else could it be? Because Your Highness is my husband. Tang Guo answered with half of her head buried. It's my duty to do this. As Your Highness's wife, I naturally have to prepare everything for Your Highness. That's all. Shangguanjing didn't believe it. If there's no other purpose, don't you want to be favored by me? I just need to do my part. As for what Your Highness thinks, no one can force me. Shangguanjing didn't see any flicker in her eyes. So, what she said was true. He turned and continued to walk to the dining room, chuckling. You're really a lady from a noble family. You can be called virtuous. But I don't like it. If you like it, then do it. This prince is quite fond of your culinary skills. If you want status and wealth, I can give it to you. As for the rest, don't think about it. In his heart, there was only Jiao. No one could replace her. He would send away this lady from a noble family sooner or later. Hearing the footsteps behind him, Shangguanjing paused for a moment. He was very happy in his heart. Young ladies from noble families were also humans, and they would feel sad too. When he stepped into the dining room, he turned around and glanced at her. Her face was slightly pale. She wanted to say something, but subconsciously stopped. Forget it, there was no point in saying all this to a blockhead. No matter how sad she was, she wouldn't go against his words. In her life, her husband was probably the only thing that mattered. Such a woman was really boring. How could he possibly like her? Let's eat. After dinner, Shangguanjing glanced at Tang Guo, who stood up first and said, "I'm leaving now." After a pause, he continued, "You have to be obedient. This prince will not treat you unfairly. But don't think about anything else." He didn't say anything else, because he would send this woman away. He only hoped that during this period, she would be obedient and not provoke him. "Yes, I understand." Looking at her well-behaved and honest appearance, without the slightest bit of agility, such a woman was really boring. His Jiao was still the best. Her every frown and smile could affect his mind. Jiao one day, he would take Jiao to the prince's mansion. When Sheng Wanjing was about to rest, he suddenly found that his quilt was light and warm. It was different from before. He couldn't help but ask, "What's going on?" "Your Highness, this is a silk quilt. The princess consort prepared it for your Highness." Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1134. Got it. You may leave now. Covering himself with the quilt, Sheng Wanjing indeed felt that the silk quilt was extremely comfortable. It was light and warm and did not feel heavy at all. It was much better than the previous one. That woman scrupulously followed the rules and was dull, but she was good at this kind of thing. Before he went to bed, he thought that although that woman was a little boring, she was not without any redeeming qualities. Of course, she could not change his mind with this. If he did not like her, there was no point in doing anything. Seeing that she had done her best, he would not treat her badly while she was in Prince Jing's mansion. When the servant got up in the morning and put on Sheng Wanjing's shoes and socks, he suddenly saw a small mark on the socks. What is this? It did not look ugly. On the contrary, the small mark added some liveliness to the pair of socks. He glanced at the edge of the shoes and saw that there was a similar mark. This mark looked like an exquisite totem. He looked at it carefully and realized that this totem was formed by the word Jing. He was surprised for a moment. This design was really exquisite. He suddenly thought of the woman he met in the garden yesterday. That woman's well-behaved and inflexible appearance instantly jumped into his mind. "Your Highness, these were all made by the princess herself." The princess said that the previous shoes and socks were not comfortable, so she will make all the clothes, shoes, and socks for your Highness from now on. The servant answered as he put on Sheng Wanjing's shoes and socks. They sighed in their hearts. The princess had only been in the mansion for half a year, but she had already taken good care of the mansion. Everything was arranged well. With a mistress like the princess, they were not as messy as before. With reasonable distribution, they could complete their tasks quickly. It was much easier than before. Moreover, the princess would reward those who did well. Everyone's hard work would be rewarded. It was really good to have the princess in Prince Jing's mansion. What does the princess usually do? Sheng Wanjing asked curiously. He fiddled with his sleeves and suddenly realized that there was a totem drawn with the word Jing on the cuffs. Seeing this, he laughed softly. This woman was really clever. In the morning, other than arranging important matters in the manor and making clothes, shoes and socks for the princess consort will check the shops under the prince's name and calculate the profits and losses. In the afternoon, the princess consort will paint and practice calligraphy in the garden. When Wang Yi is in the Fu, Wang Fei will come to the kitchen on time to prepare meals for Wang Yi. Sheng Wanjing was a little surprised. This woman was really amazing. She could actually do so many things in one day. Did she see anything from the shops under the prince's mansion? After Princess Consort took a look at the shop, she came up with many ideas for the shop. Starting from the third month, the shop's profits increased by more than 3 times. Sheng Wanjing was shocked. How could he be so powerful? The people in his shop were all talents. In the imperial city, his shop was considered to be profitable. She only had to come up with a few ideas to increase the shop's profits by so much. There's no need to attend court today. Come with me to take a look at the shops. Your Highness wants to go with Your Highness. Your Highness will go to the shop every few days. Today is the right time. When is she going? Probably after breakfast, Wang Yao said. Then I'll wait a little longer. I won't go with her. Sheng Wanjing said, I'd like to see what's so great about her. Chapter 1135. Sheng Wanjing waited in the mansion for a long time. After Tang Guo went out, he followed her from a distance with his men. Host, Sheng Wanjing is following you. Let him follow me if he likes. He's finally curious. System, yes, he's finally curious. Sheng Wanjing followed her all the way and watched Tang Guo go into the shop to check the accounts and take inventory. He found that the shop was indeed a little different. For example, the shop that sold cloth was not only selling cloth, but also exquisite and beautiful samples hanging beside it, which were all in particularly conspicuous places. Any woman who liked beauty would definitely be unable to move when passing by here. He saw that it was written outside that it sold cloth, custom-made clothes, and would also give rouge, face powder, and small accessories. In the past, the business of this shop was not bad, but it was not as good as the people coming and going now. He couldn't even squeeze in. He could only stand outside and watch. She's quite thoughtful. Sheng Wanjing said indifferently, but he saw more and more people, as well as some officials' daughters, coming in sedan chairs. After a while, he saw that the shop assistant in the shop actually took out chairs and placed tea outside. As for the women who were waiting, they sat to the side and drank tea as they waited. The women, who were originally impatient, all laughed and were very willing to wait here. Sheng Wanjing didn't say anything. According to the situation, it would be easy for him to make 3 times the profit. As long as he was given some time, or if he expanded the shop a little, the profit would be more. Seeing so many customers, he had the idea of buying the shops on both sides and expanding the shop. Who didn't like gold and silver, even if he was a prince of the dynasty? Your Highness, the princess and the others have left. There was a small door at the back of the shop. Tang Guo was usually put in from that place and came out from that place. Follow them. Where did they go? They went to a restaurant. Sheng Wanjing narrowed his eyes. A restaurant. This cloth is made of ready-made clothes. It is a woman's business. There were so many people in a restaurant. He wanted to see what this little girl was capable of. He didn't believe that she knew how to do everything. When he came to the outside of the restaurant, Sheng Wanjing was startled by the grand scene inside. Not only was the restaurant full, but there were also people waiting in line outside the restaurant. Since when did this prince's restaurant have so many customers? Your Highness, this happened a few months ago. Sheng Wanjing usually left these trivial matters to his subordinates who were capable to do them. It was basically once every half a year or once a year. If there weren't any major problems, he wouldn't show up. In fact, most people wouldn't even know that these shops and restaurants were owned by him. What's going on? It was the princess consort. She once discovered that the annual profit of the restaurant was too low, and this place occupied the best location. I found it strange, so I came to check. Then, what happened? Sheng Wanjing asked. After the princess consort saw it, she only said that the dishes were good and the ingredients were top-notch, but ordinary people couldn't afford it. It was better to make more unique side dishes and use ordinary ingredients. As for those top-notch ingredients, it was better to make signature dishes and VIP dishes. In this way, ordinary people could eat the delicious food of the restaurant. 1 or 2 side dishes could be enough for a meal. Although it's not expensive, the more people in the hall, the more money they would make. And those high officials and nobles who pursue enjoyment would naturally choose the private rooms to eat the delicious food made with top-notch ingredients. Fupin Chinese The Summit. Chapter 1136. Not only that, but the princess consort also discussed the dishes with the chefs in the restaurant. After that, the chefs' culinary skills really improved. They have both special dishes and side dishes. That makes sense. Sheng Wanjing said. He thought of the side dishes that Tang Guo made. They were all very delicious. We only think that the more expensive the ingredients, the better, and the more special dishes, the better. We have neglected that most of the people coming and going are ordinary people with the surname Bai. Who would be willing to spend a few months' money to eat a meal? Your Highness, you're right. Sheng Wanjing saw a few small stalls beside the restaurant. Looking at those people, they seemed to be the waiters of the restaurant. He noticed that these waiters were all wearing the same clothes. They looked very clean and tidy. They were all wearing hats. After thinking for a while, he knew why they were wearing hats. It was to prevent their hair from falling into the food and affecting the customer's appetite. What are they doing? He looked at the stalls and saw some sesame cakes and plain porridge. The princess consort said that some busy people will not sit down and eat quietly. It's better to set up some small stalls outside and buy sesame cakes and plain porridge. People passing by can buy a cake and a bowl of warm plain porridge and eat it in a few mouthfuls. It saves a lot of trouble. Sheng Wanjing nodded. Where there was a restaurant, as long as there was no enmity between the two families. Under normal circumstances, the restaurant would not be opened too close to the other side. In particular, those who were slightly capable knew that this was Prince Jing's restaurant. No one dared to open a restaurant next to it to steal business. In this place, there were basically no fixed stalls. Indeed, this method could be used to make a profit for the restaurant. After that, Sheng Wanjing quietly followed Tang Guo and looked at most of the shops under her name. After that, he was a little silent. Finally, he laughed and said, "No wonder so many families in the imperial city want to marry her. She does have her merits." The servant who followed him muttered in his heart, "What do you mean by merits? She's obviously very powerful." Who didn't know how powerful the princess consort was? They all envied the prince. It was said that the emperor was good to the prince. He actually bestowed such a good princess consort to the prince. Many matriarchs were pounding their chests and stamping their feet. They regretted not going to the minister's manor earlier to propose marriage. Otherwise, such a good daughter-in-law would have been theirs. Look, the prince's mansion is being managed in such a neat and tidy manner. This prince wants to enter the palace to see imperial brother. In reality, he wanted to see Tang Jiao. For the past half a year, he had been holding himself back from meeting her. When he occasionally saw Sheng Wanyi, he didn't dare to reveal anything when he saw the Tang Jiao beside him, for fear of being discovered. He had to make his brother lower his guard so that he could carry out his next plan and successfully exchange the Tang Jiao for King Jing's mansion. As for that capable first miss of the minister's mansion, so what if she was good? After all, she was not someone he cared about. With her intelligence, she was quite suitable for the palace. Host, Sheng Wanjing went to the imperial palace. He probably went to see your sister. This guy was really despicable. Tang Guo was resting in the antique shop. She didn't respond to the system at all. These, and these, I want them all. I've long heard that Nanchu's objects are exquisite and beautiful. Today, I see that it's true. Suddenly rich. This was the first thought that came to the system's mind. It was not someone from Nanshu. It was most likely a rich young master from another country who came to visit. It could also be a businessman. Shopkeeper, do you accept jade stones here? Chapter 1137. May I ask, what kind of jade is it? It's a raw stone that was just mined. I come from northern Yen. The man asked someone to bring out a stone. The shopkeeper looked at it and felt that he couldn't make the decision. This, I have to ask my wife. The shopkeeper hesitated for a moment and said. Northern Yen was rich in jade. This was known by all the countries. Many countries' jades came from the northern Yen kingdom. If these people were really merchants from northern Yen, the jade in their hands should be good. He couldn't make the decision because he didn't know much about this. There were too many traps in this. If there was a loss, he couldn't bear the responsibility. Today, the princess consort happened to be here. After hesitating, he explained to someone and came in to report to Tanguo about the situation outside. I'll go out and take a look. Tanguo walked out with the servant girls. The man who was sitting at the side drinking tea subconsciously raised his head. When he saw Tanguo, he was stunned for a moment. Then he smiled and said, so this antique shop belongs to this madam. He was about to call her a girl, but then he saw that her hair was tied up in a woman's bun. When the words reached his mouth, he awkwardly changed his words. May I know your surname? I heard from the shopkeeper that you come from northern Yen and have raw stones in your hands. Do you plan to sell them? My surname is Yen, my full name is Yenhua. Check the goods. The system almost laughed to death. What kind of name was this? Because he was called Check the Goods, so he was a stone seller. His name told the person who bought the stone to remember to check the goods. Then, young Master Yen, may I ask where your goods are? Madam knows about this. Yen Hua asked curiously. He wasn't curious that the woman was in the business of cosmetics. There weren't many people who knew about raw stones. Of course, he didn't come to sell the stones. The goods in his hands were indeed top-quality goods. Even if he didn't come to sell the stones, he didn't want to sell them to people who didn't know about the goods. I know a little. Tanguo said, is it convenient for me to take a look now? Of course, my car is outside. All the goods are in the car. Since Madam knows, then go take a look. Can I take it to the backyard? Okay. Yenhua was very curious about what this woman could see. He turned around and walked out. He waved his hand and asked someone to follow the shop assistant and bring all the raw stones to the backyard. Madam, please. Yenhua's gaze lingered on the woman's face for a moment, his gaze sweeping past her hair bun. He felt that he shouldn't call her madam and that she shouldn't get married. He couldn't help but laugh at this thought. The servant girls and manservants hurriedly moved the stones out. Yenhua saw Tanguo's skillful movements and was surprised. At the same time, his expression became more serious. He really did not expect that this woman from the Nanshu nation would also know about these things. He had learned something new. It seemed that he could not underestimate the Nanshu nation. For a mere woman to have such knowledge, it could be seen that Nanshu nation was really full of talents. He wondered if he could find 2 of them and send them to his northern Yen nation. Tanguo didn't know what Yenhua was thinking. She was looking at the stone carefully. These goods are not bad. I see that there are a few pieces inside. If they are cut out and made into objects, they will definitely be priceless. The system was very capable. It could easily see what was inside the stone. Could it be that the ancient merchants were all so conscientious to bring such good goods over? You're thinking too much. There were many unscrupulous merchants in ancient times. Chapter 1138. Tang Guo stood up and took the handkerchief from the servant girl. She wiped her hands and looked up at Yan Hua. Young Master Yan, I want all of your stones. Name your price. Madam has good taste. Actually, I came here mainly to purchase antiques from Nanshu. Selling stones is also to make friends with a knowledgeable merchant. After all, I'm really unfamiliar with this place. Since Madam recognizes them, I'll sell them to you at a cheaper price. In the end, Yan Hua did name a lower price. It was almost the kind that would not take advantage of others. Tang Guo immediately agreed without any hesitation. Host, this Yan Hua is probably not a merchant. If he does business like this, it won't be long before he closes down. He is indeed not a merchant, but I'm very satisfied with this batch of goods. It's good enough that I can make some profit. System, did the host's money-grubbing hobby come from the last world and hasn't had time to fade? Young Master Yen is so generous. I can't take advantage of him. After Tang Guo had the stones taken away, she said to Yan Hua, in the future, if young Master Yen has any needs or is unfamiliar with anything, just look for the shopkeeper of this shop. Shopkeeper do, as long as young Master Yen is in the Imperial City, you must treat him well. Don't neglect him. Give young Master Yen a discount for all the shops under the residence's name. Yes, madam. Shopkeeper Du did not feel that there was anything wrong with Tang Guo's words. The princess consort had said that the goods were of good quality. There was no doubt about it. Later, he would invite a stone-cutting master to take a look. If he could really extract top-grade jade, even if there were only a few pieces, it would be a huge profit. It's almost time for lunch. Shopkeeper, arrange for someone to invite young Master Yen to the restaurant. Young Master Yen, I'm going back to the residence. Goodbye. Yan Hua hurriedly said, Madam won't go to the restaurant with this one to eat. It was strange that he felt a little reluctant. It was obviously a little abrupt to say this to a woman who was married, but he still could not help but say it. With that, he was a little annoyed. The good impression he had just now was gone. Tang Guo smiled faintly. I'm afraid that's inconvenient. This one was rude. Madam, please don't take offense. This one apologizes to Madam. Traveling outside all year round, I don't care about trifles most of the time. Forgetting Madam's identity is indeed my mistake. Then, young Master Yen, I'll take my leave. Take care, Madam. Tang Guo left with her maids and manservants. Yan Hua stood there for a long time and did not come back to his senses. He only withdrew his gaze when someone beside him called him in a low voice. Manager Du invited him to a restaurant, and then booked a room for him. He told her that if she needed anything, she could go to the shop to find him. Only then did she leave. Yan Hua sat in the room for a long time without speaking, which made the people around him puzzled. Master, is there something wrong? What's wrong? Yan Hua asked subconsciously. Then he laughed. No, nothing's wrong. He just felt that something was wrong with him. His mind was filled with the image of that beautiful lady. This was really too strange. He had never felt anything for women since he was young. How could he have feelings for a woman who was married to a man? He shouldn't. He really shouldn't. There were thousands of jewels in the world that could be robbed, but this married woman was the only one that couldn't be robbed. He couldn't rob, but it didn't mean that he couldn't think about it. It should be okay to think about it, right? Chapter 1139. Yan Hua thought to himself that this was not something that he could not think about just because he did not want to. Hua ran when Enacom. The more he thought about it, the more Yan Hua felt that he was extremely strange. Perhaps he had never seen a woman before, which was why he suddenly could not take his eyes off a beautiful madam. Master, you're distracted again. Yanhua could not help but ask, what do you think is strange about that madam today? His subordinate did not understand what his master meant by asking this. He did not think too much about it. His master had never liked women since he was young, and he did not think that Yanhua had any feelings for Tanghua. He only said, I think that madam is different from ordinary women. From her words, I can tell that she is knowledgeable. From her etiquette, I can tell that she comes from a very cultured family. I can use a few words to describe her. Virtuous, and talented. And as beautiful as a flower, Yanhua said without thinking. Then, he saw his subordinate's messy face. His face almost cracked. Their master actually described a woman as beautiful as a flower. Had their master been replaced by someone else? Yanhua also reacted. Don't you think that madam is beautiful? Actually, when it came to that face, he was attracted by those eyes. He always felt that those beautiful eyes could see through everything. She is indeed very beautiful. Master, don't tell me you. Yanhua's subordinate trembled for a moment, but then he felt that it was impossible. No matter how crazy his master was, he would not really have any thoughts about a married woman, right? Even if he had any thoughts, according to their understanding of their master, he would not do such a thing. Their master was a true gentleman. No, I'm just asking. Yanhua naturally would not tell his subordinates what he was thinking. Of course, he would not do anything just because of this thought. If that madam was not married, he might really do something. Since he was interested, it was fine to marry her. Now, he could only feel regret in his heart. He believed that when he left Nanshu country, all of this would be fleeting. Perhaps it was because that madam was very special. She was beautiful, talented, and knowledgeable that he treated her differently. Host, have you become a money grubber? Wasn't it just a truckload of good stuff? Was it worth being so happy? My energy is skyrocketing. It was so inflated that he felt a little scared. Isn't it good to increase your energy? It was good, but his golden thigh had suddenly become a money grubber. He felt that his host had fallen from the altar. As for being happy. Quietly, the smile on his face never disappeared the entire time he was on the sedan chair. When she returned to her room, she even started humming a tune. By the way, host, who is that Yanhua? He doesn't look like a businessman. Indeed, he's not a businessman. Tanghua took a sip of the scented tea. His identity is incredible. The system muttered in its heart. It turned its head and flipped through the plot from beginning to end. It still did not see a person like Yanhua. It felt very strange. Host, can you tell me where he is right now? Could it be that this guy was a small cannon fodder, the kind that died without a name? Or could it be that someone knows what's good for him, but he didn't meet the host and was killed in the end? Has your brain been filled with energy until it's stupid? Dear host, tell me. Tanghua almost spat out. Was this acting coquettishly? Peak. Chapter 1140. I don't want to talk about it. I think there's a need to improve your observation and imagination. Enicom, system, understood. The host despises me for being blind and stupid. Wait a minute, the host is so happy. Could it be related to this Yanhua? Thinking of the way Yanhua looked at its host, the system had an idea. It can't be that guy, right? Thinking of the previous world, that guy was really stingy and calculative to outsiders. He was really a nightmare. The person whom he had met previously had a dignified appearance and was extremely polite. Yet, he had actually apologized for his rude words. Oh my, he's really a modest gentleman. The system shuddered. From a stingy and calculative guy to a modest gentleman, it really couldn't accept it. Could it be that he and the host graduated from the same drama school? It shouldn't be. He doesn't have memories, but the host does. Princess, His Highness has instructed that there's no need to prepare lunch and dinner. He'll stay in the palace today. Understood. At this time, Shangwan Jing, who stayed in the palace, was playing chess with Shangwan Yi. The two were sitting face to face. The beautiful concubine sitting next to Shangwan Yi was the Tang Jiao. The Tang Jiao cupped her face and looked at the chessboard. From time to time, she pulled Shangwan Yi. She was more anxious than him, the emperor. Okay, I'll listen to you. Shangwan Yi turned and smiled at the Tang Jiao. Jiao Fei is the smartest. I'll listen to you. I'll definitely win. Of course. The Tang Jiao smiled back at Shangwan Yi. She glanced at Shangwan Jing, who was hiding below and clenching his fists. She curled her lips in her heart. System, these two men are so scumbags. That's why the host transmigrated into the Tang Jiao's body and helped her change her fate. The Tang Jiao shook her head. Poor little girl. She obviously yearns for freedom, but she was born in this era of male power. She was even chosen by two equally powerful men. How unlucky. The original host's eldest sister is also unlucky. She was a well-bred lady, but her memories were changed just like that. The most despicable thing was that she was given away by Shangwan Yi. Scumbag. They're clearly treating women like goods. I don't think they love the Tang Jiao that much. It's just a battle between the two of them. That's why the host needs to change her fate as soon as possible. Tang Jiao frowned. How can I change? With your help, her memories won't be tampered with. As for Tang Gua, she was born a noble lady. It's impossible to take her out to wander around, right? Actually, it's not possible to escape. The minister's residence will suffer. Host, Tang Jiao's obsession is her elder sister. As long as you can change her sister's fate, the main mission will be completed. The system reminded her. Since these two men are obsessed with you, the host can make use of them. When the Tang Gua was given away, Shangwan Jing didn't bring the Tang Jiao to the banquet so that nothing unexpected would happen. If the Tang Jiao was present, the Tang Gua might not have been sent away. The two sisters are so close that they definitely wouldn't want to see their biological sister being sent away. Do you mean that if I ask, I can save her? Of course. The Tang Jiao nodded. Okay, then I'll be a demoness who can bring disaster to the country and people. First, I'll charm these two men. Maybe, since they're both scumbags, it's not a bad idea to let them kill each other. Jiao Fei, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Shangwan Yi saw that the Tang Jiao was in a daze and suddenly became nervous. Chapter 1141. I'm fine. I was just looking at the game and got lost in it. Tang Jiao hurriedly replied. She even smiled at Shangwan Yi after replying. Shangwan Yi heaved a sigh of relief and held her hand. He said with concern, if you're not feeling well, I'll send you back. The loving scene between the two stung Shangwan Jing's eyes. With a faint smile on his face, he clenched his fists in his sleeves. Especially when Tang Jiao didn't even look at him, it made him feel even worse. The three of them had known each other before. At that time, Jiao didn't care about trifles at all and loved to recite poems with him. Now that she was conferred the title of Consort Jiao by his brother, everything she did became restricted. He hated her well-behaved appearance. The palace walls would only erase the spiritual energy in Jiao. He wouldn't let such a beautiful thing disappear. Jiao loved freedom. One day, he would take her out of the palace walls and she could be the same as before. She could go wherever she wanted and say whatever she wanted. There was no need to be so well-behaved. Prince Jing. Shangguan Yi's voice woke Shangguan Jing up. He hurriedly said, "Brother, I'm here. How are you getting along with the princess consort?" When he asked this, Shangguan Yi observed Shangguan Jing's and Tang Zhao's expressions. Consort Zhao didn't pay attention to Prince Jing when they were playing chess for a long time. Prince Jing didn't seem to have any thoughts about Consort Zhao either. This made Shangguan Yi feel much better. Even if Shangguan Jing was his younger brother, he didn't like his woman always being thought about by his younger brother. Consort Zhao's personality was lively and quick-witted, which was also what he liked. In this dull palace, fortunately, there was the mischievous Consort Zhao around. Everything became interesting. Very good. Shangguan Jing replied with a normal expression. Wasn't it very good? That woman was well-behaved and didn't overstep at all. No one could find fault with her at all. He had to admit that such a woman was indeed a good steward. Unfortunately, he did not need her. I heard that ever since the princess consort entered the imperial residence, the entire imperial residence of King Jing has changed drastically. Even the shops under King Jing's name have become brand new. Their income has increased by several times compared to before. Shangguan Yi said happily. He felt that he had made a good move. Tang Gua and Tang Zhao were twins and looked exactly the same. He had his eyes on the Tang Zhao, and so had King Jing. When he made Tang Zhao his consort, it was inevitable that King Jing would feel uncomfortable. He thought about how Tang Zhao's twin sister looked just like her, so he decided to betroth Tang Gua to King Jing as his consort. This was the best of both worlds. Now, according to the news from various sources, this luminescent consort was not bad at all. Not only would he be able to take care of the trifling matters in the mansion, he would also be able to come up with some new ideas to increase the income of the mansion. This was a good woman that other families could only dream of having. The little bit of guilt in his heart disappeared. With such a good consort, King Jing would probably forget about his special liking for Consort Zhao, right? Yes, there is such a thing. Then King Jing is really lucky. Even I am a little envious. Shangguan Yi said casually. He thought that Shangguan Jing would be satisfied with this matter. Shangguan Jing lowered his head and pursed his lips. He almost blurted out, "If you are envious, why didn't you take Tang Gua as your consort? Why did you give him Tang Zhao instead?" Of course, he wanted to say this out loud, but he didn't dare to. He could only say nothing and respond with silence. Peak. Chapter 1142. Shangguan Yi was the emperor, so he couldn't fight against him for the time being. If the other party knew that he hadn't given up, it wouldn't be so easy to snatch Zhao back. When the Tang Zhao heard the news about Tang Gua, she felt a little restless. She had originally planned to meet this older sister and give her a warning or something. But from her memory, she knew that this was a very traditional noble lady, so she didn't know if she could make things clear when she met her. She also couldn't reveal her identity. If the people here found out, they would treat her as a demon and burn her. Fortunately, the Tang Zhao's personality was quite lively, and she had already traveled through 2 worlds, so she had some experience. But this was the ancient imperial society, the kind where people would die at the slightest provocation. Usually, when she exchanged things from the system store, she would try to choose things that were similar to this era, for fear of being exposed. Jiao Fei, Jin sees that you have something to say. Shangguan Yi noticed the Tang Zhao's somewhat expectant expression and thought for a moment. Just now, he seemed to have mentioned Tang Gua. He heard that the relationship between these 2 sisters had always been good, so Jiao Fei must be missing her biological sister, right? Sure enough, he heard the Tang Jiao say, "Your Majesty, this concubine hasn't seen my older sister for half a year. When I heard the news about my older sister just now, my heart missed her very much." After saying this, she looked pitifully at Shangguan Yi. Since she wanted to be a seductress who bewitched the two brothers, she had to practice first. To be honest, she really hadn't been a seductress or anything like that. First, she didn't have such external conditions. Second, her three views were still relatively upright, and she didn't like to have a foot in two boats. But when it came to these two brothers, she could disregard her three views. These two were scum through and through. Shangguan Jing was selfish, while Shangguan Yi was cold and heartless. "So it's because you miss your older sister," Shangguan Yi thought for a moment and said, "You've been in the palace for half a year, are you bored to death?" Thinking of the lively and active Tang Jiao, it was indeed difficult for her to be cooped up in the palace all this time. Tang Jiao nodded and her eyes brightened. She grabbed Shangguan Yi's sleeve and said, "Yes, Your Majesty, this concubine has been bored to death for the past 6 months." Seeing that the Tang Jiao's temper had suddenly flared up, Shangguan Yi's mood improved a lot. "How about this? Tomorrow, I will take you out of the palace to play and visit Consort Jing at Prince Jing's mansion. How about that?" "Thank you, Your Majesty." Tang Jiao was very happy. Sure enough, women who acted coquettishly had the best life. Even if Shangguan Yi was the emperor, he would still fall for this trick. Of course, if this person didn't treat her like a pet and tease her, she wouldn't be so hateful. Last month, when she transmigrated, she had seen through Shangguan Yi. He was only interested in the Tang Jiao because she was different from the other women in the palace. Once he assimilated with the Tang Jiao, he wouldn't necessarily have deep feelings for her. If he was happy, he would constantly reward her. If he was unhappy, he would also lose his temper. If she competed with the other concubines for favor, he would probably look at her with a very disappointed expression. Most likely, he would even say, "Consort Jiao, I think you've changed. I thought you were different from the other women, but I didn't expect." Tang Jiao chuckled. Usually, when it was like this, she would want to scold him, "Fuck you, you changed, fuck you, you didn't expect it." In short, Shangguan Yi was a person who didn't have feelings at all. Later on, he was so obsessed with the Tang Jiao because someone was fighting with him, the emperor. As the emperor, how could he tolerate it? The peak. Chapter 1143. He thought that Tang Jiao was his and no one could take her away from him. When the easier it was to lose something, the more precious it would be. Shangguan Jing, on the other hand, was unwilling to give up because he didn't get what he wanted. As the saying goes, what you can't get is always in turmoil. "My brother will bring concubine Jiao to our mansion tomorrow." Shangguan Jing was both happy and nervous when he heard that Tang Jiao would come to Prince Jing's mansion, regardless of the reason. He had planned to rest in the palace, but after hearing the news, he and Shangguan found an excuse to come back to accompany his wife and planned to decorate the mansion overnight. "Your Highness, my brother and concubine Jiao are both honorable people. It's still early, so you can arrange everything in the mansion. Change all the things that can be changed to good and new ones. The old ones, the ones that don't look good, the ones that don't look good, change them all for this prince." "Understood, Your Highness," Tang Guo replied, but she was thinking that Shangguan Yi and Tang Jiao would come to the mansion tomorrow. There was no such thing in the plot. In the plot, the two sisters met 1 year after they got married, which was the time when they changed their memories. Could it be that something went wrong? She didn't change anything related to the plot for the time being, but she couldn't think of a reason. She would see Tang Jiao tomorrow first. "Okay, you can go and make the arrangements." Shangguan Jing couldn't stop smiling. "Concubine Jiao is your sister, so you should know what she likes, right?" You can arrange whatever she likes. Don't be calculative about the money." With that, he left quickly. He looked so excited that it was as if he was afraid that no one could tell what he was thinking. Just look at him. Isn't the money earned by our host? Idiot. Tanghua. Since when did this bucket of hers learn how to swear? The sun has set and it's going to be dark soon. This idiot is so annoying. The system muttered a round of curses. Tanghua had already gathered everyone in the mansion. He repeated what Shangguan Jing had instructed him to do. Then, she ordered the servants to start moving. She said, "Let's go to His Highness last. I saw that His Highness seemed to have something on just now. Don't disturb him." "Yes, Your Highness." The servant didn't think that there was anything wrong with Wang Fei's words. She couldn't just go to Wang Ye's courtyard from the start. Moreover, the princess consort had said that the prince was busy now. It was not good for them to disturb him. Moreover, the emperor and consort Jiao would not pay too much attention to the princess consort's courtyard. On the other hand, since the princess consort and imperial concubine Jiao were biological sisters, the princess consort should be properly decorated. Someone suggested this to Tanghua. Tanghua pursed her lips and smiled. "That's right. My relationship with my younger sister has always been very good. If she comes to the Fu, the first thing she will do is come to my place. Then you can start from my courtyard." His Highness said that we should change everything that's old, ugly, or uncomfortable to look at. Imperial concubine Jiao is a noble person. You can't mistreat her. So, you can decorate as you see fit. There's no need to save money. After receiving the order, the servants took the cleaning tools and went to clean the courtyard. Some of them followed the butler to the storeroom to pick out exquisite ornaments. Some of them had to go out of the Fu to purchase goods. If the Prince Jing's mansion wanted to purchase goods, who would dare to not open the door? It was a piece of cake for them to do these things. Peak. Chapter 1144. With Shangguan Jing's instructions, Tanghua changed all the things in her courtyard. All the decorations were selected from the storeroom and they were all exquisite, precious and rare. Even the steward didn't think much of it. The steward knew better than anyone else. Judging from the prince's instructions, he knew that the prince hadn't forgotten about consort Jiao. He also saw that his princess consort had put in a lot of effort to welcome the emperor and consort Jiao. How could he know that the prince valued it so much just because of consort Jiao? He felt sorry for this kind-hearted and kind princess consort. Therefore, when choosing the things, he chose the best ones. Anyway, the prince had said that he had to take out all the good things for consort Jiao. Now that these things were in the princess consort's courtyard, they would belong to her in the future. It could be considered as compensation for her. If it were him, he wouldn't bear to let such a good princess consort suffer. It was a pity that their prince's heart wasn't here. Tanghua looked at the brand new courtyard, the rare and precious decorations, and a particularly good tea set. She was in a good mood. System, was this the legendary abuse of power for personal gain? His princess consort was really taking advantage of it. My courtyard should be almost done. You can go somewhere else. By the way, I saw that the prince is still in the study. Don't disturb him. Go to the prince's room after the other places in the mansion are cleaned up. Yes, Your Highness. The servants quickly got to work. They changed all the unwanted, ugly, and old things. Even the flowers and grass in the garden, which stuck out and blocked the way, were cleaned up with lanterns. Those that couldn't be cleaned up were trimmed. The huge Wangfu had to be cleaned and replaced. The servants were busy from the time the sun set until the middle of the night. Tanghua had already slept for a while. It was the system that reminded her that the servants had cleaned up the other places. She quickly got up. When the servants came in, they saw her leaning on the table with her forehead propped up, looking very tired. Especially the steward. When he saw the Wang Fei working hard until midnight, he couldn't help but sigh. His Wang Ye was really in the wrong this time. In any case, Wang Fei was from the minister's manor. Just because of one sentence from him, she was tired until midnight. If Wang Fei knew Wang Ye's real purpose, she would be very sad. Butler. Tang Guo raised her head and asked, "Have you finished changing them?" "Reporting to your highness, except for his highness's courtyard, all the other places have been replaced." Tang Guo nodded. "Thank you for your hard work. Let's go to his highness now." "Let's go now." The steward said, "Your highness, you must be tired today. You should rest early. I'll keep an eye on his highness." "That's good." The steward is very familiar with his highness's courtyard and has always been by his highness's side. He will definitely arrange everything well. Tang Guo said with an expression of, "I trust you very much," which moved the steward. Wang Fei was a good person. She would never look down on the servants because of her status. She didn't know when Prince Yu would be able to see how good Princess Yu was. Thinking of the torment in the middle of the night, he sighed. It would be difficult. The steward led the servants to Sheng Wanjing's courtyard. Tang Guo buried her head and laughed silently. She didn't know how Sheng Wanjing would feel when he was woken up from his sleep. If she was woken up in the middle of the night, she would be very angry. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1145. This was the best time to have a good dream and sleep. As for her, she was going to wash up and sleep now. As for whether Sheng Wanjing would be unhappy, it was not something she could control. If he was unhappy, she would be happier. System, he knew that there must be something fishy. "What are you all doing here?" Sheng Wanjing opened the door impatiently and saw the servants of the prince's mansion in the yard, carrying all kinds of tools. He was very unhappy. Just now in his dream, he was dreaming that he was with Zhao. "Your Highness, didn't you order us to change everything in the prince's mansion?" The steward said eagerly, "Your Highness has been in the study. The princess consort said not to disturb you, so we cleaned the other places and changed the things. Now all the places in the prince's mansion have been cleaned, except for your Highnesses." The servants were innocent. They were all ordered by the prince. They also thought that his highness, like her highness, would wait for the mansion to be cleaned up before resting. After all, the prince was very careful when he gave these orders. Moreover, the light in the prince's room was on. They didn't expect that he would be asleep. "Your Highness, is it easy to clean here?" The princess consort said that your Highness attaches great importance to the arrival of His Majesty and consort Zhao tomorrow. He didn't dare to be negligent and stayed by our side to clean until midnight. He just went to rest. The steward continued. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "His Highness is so good." He gave all the orders and went to sleep. It was only because Wang Fei had an honest personality that she listened to Wang Yi in everything and did not complain at all. Sheng Wanjing wouldn't come out. Yes, this was all arranged by him. Hearing that Tang Guo had waited for half the night and just went to sleep, he couldn't be angry because he was woken up, right? Servants were also people. If he was really angry, he would probably mutter something in his heart. "Okay, you can clean." Sheng Wanjing frowned and waved his hand. He turned and put on his clothes, planning to sit and wait. The steward said in a low voice, "Your Highness, I'm afraid it can't be done in such a short time. Why don't you go to the princess consort's place first?" Seeing Sheng Wanjing's face darken, he continued, "There are other empty rooms in the princess consort's courtyard. No. Shangguan Jing refused. As you said, the princess has just rested. How can we disturb her? You guys go and prepare the study room first. This prince will go to the study room later. Yes, Your Highness. The steward also knew that it was impossible for the prince to go to the princess consort's place. His entire heart was with concubine Zhao. The servants quickly cleaned the study and Shangguan Jing went in. At this time, being woken up, he couldn't fall asleep. He planned to lean against the soft couch and read a book, but he didn't expect the commotion outside to be so great that he couldn't calm down at all. Helplessly, he planned to practice his calligraphy again, but he was still disturbed. In the end, he decided that it was better to sleep. He had been practicing martial arts since he was young, so his ears and eyes were sharp. Even when he was lying on the soft couch, he could still hear the whispers of the servants. It wasn't until dawn that his courtyard was finally finished. The steward knocked on the door. Your Highness, it's all done. Shangguan Jing was dozing off because he was a little sleepy. When he was woken up, he almost cursed angrily. When he thought of the return of the Tang Jiao today, he became energetic. This prince knows. You guys have worked hard all night. You can all leave. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1146. The steward wanted to ask if the servants should be rewarded for their hard work all night. However, Shangguan Jing quickly returned to his room and was picking out the robes he was going to wear today. He shook his head and decided to look for the princess consort. Since you've worked hard all night, I'll double your salary this month, Tang Guo said to the steward. His Highness attaches great importance to these matters, so I can only trouble you. There's nothing else for now, so you can go and take a nap. I'll send the maids to keep watch outside the palace gates. We'll have news when His Majesty and Consort Zhao come out. The tired and sleepy servants were immediately moved to tears when they heard Tang Guo's words. They felt that their hard work last night was not in vain. The princess consort was the best. She treated them like humans. Thank you, princess consort. King Jing's residence suddenly quieted down. Tang Guo had a good night's sleep and was very energetic. She was in a very good mood when she saw that the furnishings in the room had been changed. The curtains and other things had been changed to new colors. Host, that Shangguan Jing didn't sleep well the whole night. He's in the room picking out the robes he wants to wear. When he looks at himself in the mirror, he really looks like a peacock. Host, he changed into a moon-white robe. He even held a folding fan and stood in front of the mirror for a long time. As Tang Guo listened to the system's chatter, she couldn't help but ask, Tongzi, have you been pierced by another bucket? How is that possible? Great host, I'm still the same bucket. I haven't changed. I just can't stand a selfish scumbag like Shangguan Jing. Tang Guo nodded thoughtfully. The system spoke again. Host, Shangguan Jing seems to be very sleepy. He's about to take a nap. Then I'll send him some breakfast. He hasn't eaten yet. Tang Guo stood up and smoothed out the creases on her robes. She said seriously, as King Jing's princess consort, I should consider his health and take care of him at all times. System, so bad. So bad. Just as Shangguan Jing fell asleep with his head resting on his hands, he vaguely heard footsteps. He opened his eyes abruptly and saw Tang Guo smiling at him. He frowned. Princess consort, why are you here? The servants have been busy the whole night. Since His Majesty is coming to the residence, I'm afraid that they won't be able to serve you well, so I told them to rest first. So, this concubine prepared this breakfast for Your Highness. Your Highness, breakfast is very important. Shangguan Jing was unhappy, but when he saw those cute little snacks, he thought that they should taste good. Although he was very tired, he felt the princess consort. Princess consort, your highness. To you to rest. The emperor is coming. Since Wang Ye values it so much, how could this concubine dare to rest? Shangguan Jing was too lazy to say anything. He picked up the snack and took a bite. The taste is not bad. He was in a better mood, but he was still a little sleepy. Actually, I miss you very much too. When he heard Tang Guo mention Tang Jiao, Shangguan Jing didn't want to chase her away and decided to take a nap. I heard that you and consort Jiao have a very good relationship. Yes, they've always been very good. Shangguan Jing's eyes flashed. Since that's the case, why don't you go to the palace to visit consort Jiao? Your sisters. As long as you want to go, my imperial brother and I won't stop you. Thank you, your highness. Consort Jiao is very active and likes to go out to play. Shangguan Jing felt that his words were too obvious and quickly corrected himself. It was my imperial brother who said so. Fupin Chinese the Peak. Chapter 1147. According to my brother's character, if concubine Jiao wants to go out of the palace, he will definitely allow it. After you meet concubine Jiao today, you can invite her to visit Prince Jing's mansion often. You're right, your highness. I also want to say the same to my sister. I can't bear to see her every time for a year and a half. Shangguan Jing was delighted. If Tang Guo invited Jiao, to visit Prince Jing's mansion to reminisce about old times, he would be able to see Jiao, often. With his brother's love for Jiao, he would definitely allow it. As long as he showed that he did not care about Jiao, his brother would not suspect anything. He did not intend to alert the enemy before he achieved his goal. His brother was not a fool. If he showed even a little bit of affection, he might not be able to see Jiao, in this lifetime. I know that you and concubine Jiao are very close sisters. When concubine Jiao comes to visit, you just have to treat her well. Thank you, your highness. Tang Guo thanked him gratefully. She glanced at the excited Shangguan Jing from the corner of her eye and sneered in her heart. That was a good plan. Shangguan Jing had forgotten to catch up on sleep because he was chatting with Tang Guo about the Tang Jiao. As they chatted, they talked about the time when Shangguan Yi and Tang Jiao would arrive at Prince Jing's mansion. Tang Guo laughed in her heart and asked Shangguan Jing, who had only slept for less than 8 hours, if he was sleepy. This time, Shangguan Yi did not bring many people with him when he came out with Tang Jiao. He only brought a few attendants who were skilled in martial arts. They sat in a very low-key carriage and quietly arrived at the gate of Prince Jing's mansion. Tang Jiao was helped out of the carriage. When she raised her head, she saw the dignified and beautiful woman standing beside Shangguan Jing. That woman's face was exactly the same as hers. Looking at her, Lin Mingya felt as if she was looking at another version of herself. Tang Guo maintained a faint smile on her face and followed Shangguan Jing's salute. She was always so well behaved. Tang Jiao quickly reacted and hurriedly maintained her persona. She happily threw away Shangguan Yi's hand and ran to Tang Guo's side. She intimately held her hand and called out, "Sister." Tang Jiao felt bitter in her heart. This kind of persona could really collapse if she was not careful. Tang Guo replied softly. Maintaining her image was a piece of cake for her. A strange look flashed across her eyes. This Tang Jiao doesn't seem right. Looks like consort Jiao really wants to see Luminescent Princess. Since that's the case, Luminescent Princess, I'll let you take care of consort Jiao. Of course, Shangguan Yi would not let Shangguan Jing and consort Jiao get too close. When he said this, he subconsciously looked at the other party. When he saw that Shangguan Jing was completely unmoved, He even said to Tang Guo with a look of approval, "The princess also told me that she misses Consort Zhao a lot. Princess, please take good care of Consort Zhao." Shangguan Yi nodded inwardly. It looked like his younger brother's feelings had indeed been subdued by this princess. It was not strange for him to think that Shangguan Jing would be moved by such a good woman. This time, he came to luminescent Prince Jing's mansion to fulfill Consort Zhao's wish. Secondly, he wanted to test luminescent Prince Jing and see if he had given up on Consort Zhao. Since Consort Zhao was already his woman, he definitely would not allow anyone else to covet her. This person was his twin brother. Tang Zhao followed them to Tang Guo's courtyard. Along the way, she observed this noble lady and sighed to the system. As expected of a true noble lady from ancient times. "System, it's lucky that I've transmigrated into Tang Zhao's body. If I were to transmigrate into Tang Guo's body, I'd better die. If that really happened, I'd have to pretend to have lost my memory." Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1148. Host, you'll get used to it. After you transmigrate to a few more worlds and learn more skills, you'll be able to dress up like a lady from a respectable family in the future. Yes, I'll work hard. Tang Guo, system, both of them had the same thought at the same time. So, the Tang Zhao had been transmigrated? Tang Guo maintained her composure. She wasn't surprised at all. The system was a little excited. It had met another system. He missed the crooked system from last time. The feeling of swallowing it in one gulp was really too good. He hoped that he would meet another crooked system this time. Then, he could swallow it again. Don't think about it. This one doesn't look bad. If the Tang Zhao was really bad, the plot would have changed long ago. Alright, I'm just thinking about it. However, host, we've met this kind of mission enforcer again. What should we do? Should we tie up that system and ask what's going on? No need to rush. They should still be communicating. Let's confirm their purpose first. If it doesn't conflict with me, then let's play along. Tang Guo chuckled. If she doesn't have any ill intentions, then I'll create a local reincarnated person. System, all right. Finally, they reached Tang Guo's courtyard. The two sisters were still holding hands. Tang Zhao chatted with Tang Guo while complaining to her system. On the other hand, Tang Guo knew the other party's purpose. So she's here to help the Tang Zhao complete her obsession. Tang Guo communicated with the system. This obsession is actually to change my fate. So, she's good. The system said regretfully. Tang Guo said affirmatively, of course she's good. When you didn't hear her talk, she was always reminding me not to be too close to one person. She even said something about knowing a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. Isn't she just reminding me to be careful of two scumbags? Her conversation with the system couldn't be heard because this system of hers had been upgrading too quickly over the years. Normal systems wouldn't be able to sense the existence of this little system at all. So, host, I can't swallow systems anymore. The system asked reluctantly. Why do you have to swallow me? Isn't it good to make friends? I don't want to be friends with such a low-level system. That would lower my status. Tang Guo, when they entered the room, Tang Guo glanced at Tang Zhao, who was going crazy. She raised her head and said to the servants, "You can all leave. I want to have a private talk with my sister." The maidservants had all left. With the system monitoring her, she would be the first to know if anyone came. Even without the system, with her powerful soul, she could still sense it. Sis, you must remember what I said. Tang Zhao really did not know how to express herself. She was afraid that this local girl from a big family would not understand. Be good to yourself. don't be so loyal to others. Some people are not necessarily as good as they seem. Just when Tang Jiao was distressed, Tang Gua shook off Tang Jiao's hand and said coldly, "Who are you? Jiao Jiao wouldn't tell me these things." At that moment, Tang Jiao was dumbfounded. This. What's going on? System, 3 twos. What's going on? Tang Jiao's eyes widened. Could it be that my persona has been destroyed? What should I do? This girl from a big family is too smart. I don't think I revealed anything strange, right? How could her persona have been destroyed? 222 System, host, I suggest that you talk to her again. I feel that she doesn't have any bad intentions. Fupin Chinese Pinnacle. Chapter 1149. Then. I'll try. Sister, I'm Jiao Jiao. I'm really Jiao Jiao. Tang Jiao wanted to cry. She didn't expose herself in front of Shengwan Jing or Shengwan Yi, but she was actually suspected in front of her own sister. Actually, it was true. The two sisters grew up together, so it was possible for them to be suspected. Tang Guan narrowed her eyes. You're really Jiao Jiao. Then I'll ask you some questions. As long as you can answer them, I'll believe you. Sister, ask away. I'm really your sister, your biological sister. She was really her biological sister. Other than Xian, everything about her was real. She wasn't willing to expose her identity. The mission system had clearly stated that she couldn't expose her identity and let the locals know the truth. Her mission was to complete Tang Jiao's obsession, save Tang Gua, pull her out of the fire and water, change her fate, and let her live a happy life, /I and 1T/I. This happiness would definitely include her biological sister. If she knew that her biological sister was a fake sister, this happiness would probably be reduced. Tang Jiao had also said that she wanted her to live a good life for her. Now, she was Tang Jiao, and Tang Jiao was her. So, she was really her biological sister. Tang Jiao said to 222, 3 twos. If there's any question that I haven't memorized, I'll rely on you. The two sisters were together every day when they were young. Although she had seriously memorized the plot in order to complete the mission, it was inevitable that she would overlook some questions. No problem. As long as it's in the memories of the two sisters, I'll know. Tang Jiao heaved a sigh of relief. Then, Tang Gua asked 4 or 5 questions in a row. Tang Jiao put in a lot of effort and with 222's help, she answered all of them. Then, she realized that Tang Gua's gaze was getting gentler and gentler, and at the same time, there was some vicissitudes of life. No matter how she looked at it, it was a little strange. She was clearly only 18 years old, so why did she look so sad? Then, her hand was held, and she heard Tang Gua ask in a low voice, Jiao Jiao, you've been reborn too, right? System, why is the host's acting so exquisite? Even I was almost fooled. Nanny. Tang Jiao. 3 twos, what does she mean? Host, she should have been reborn. That's why she felt that something was wrong with you and became suspicious. Now that you've answered her childhood question, she's sure that you've been reborn. But your personality is a little different, so she thought that you were reborn too. Tang Jiao heaved a huge sigh of relief. So, she thinks I'm a reincarnated person. Yes, host, this is also good. She is actually a smart person. After experiencing life and death, I don't think she will repeat the same mistakes. Host, in my opinion, you should go along with what she said about being reborn. You want to take revenge and change the fate of you two sisters. You don't want to be played by men. That's right. Sisters working together can cut through gold. Alright, from now on, I'm a reincarnated person. Tang Jiao felt relieved and felt that this was not bad. Now that Tanggua had been reborn, it would actually be easier for her to complete the mission. At least, she would not have to be restrained when dealing with those two scumbags. After thinking it through, Tang Jiao's eyes were brimming with tears. Sister, you've been reborn too. She hurriedly threw herself into Tanggua's arms. Sister, I finally see you again. I was really useless in my previous life. If I had woken up earlier, I wouldn't have let you suffer so much. The Peak. Chapter 1150. Tang Jiao was really crying. Before every mission, she would meet the spirit that gave her the mission. She had seen Tang Jiao's spirit before. She saw all of Tang Jiao's memories through Tang Jiao's spirit. It was like a movie playing in front of her eyes. Tang Jiao was originally a lively and cheerful girl, but she was full of guilt and guilt. At this moment, she instantly took on the role of Tang Jiao. System, he felt that Tang Jiao was also a drama graduate. She was most likely from the same school as his host. Tanggua took the opportunity to hug Tang Jiao. She patted Tang Jiao's back and said softly, "It's good that you're back." System, so, what was this? He still had to meet the 3 twos, right? From the sound of it, the 3 twos should be a little Shota. He wanted to laugh. This little Shota was really unlucky. His serial number was actually 222. However, he soon stopped laughing. No matter what, he still had a serial number. Even if he was a 2s, he didn't even have a serial number. When he still had his memories, he thought that he was the only system in this world. Sis, when did you come back? I came back last month. I've always wanted to see you, but I was afraid that people would suspect me. Tang Jiao was almost done crying. Actually, she felt a little embarrassed. This feeling of substitution was too strong. It was too hurtful for her body. Look at her sister. She was calm and collected. Other than the slight change in her eyes, she was really not afraid of anything. Once she was enlightened, those two scumbags would have a hard time. On the night of the wedding, Tangua's lips curled into a mocking smile. She vividly portrayed the expression of a woman who had experienced betrayal, abandonment, and life and death. I was also thinking about what to do to get you and me out of this fire and water. Tang Jiao sighed. One of them is the Emperor, and the other is King Jing. Sis, we have to be careful. Thinking about the wedding in 2 months, she became nervous. Sis, after I was reborn, I had a fortuitous encounter. I have a way to avoid having my memories tampered with. Tanggua glanced at Tang Jiao and asked, really? If that's the case, things will be much easier. Of course it's true. I just didn't know how to tell you this before. I was afraid that you wouldn't believe me. After all, reincarnation is really too bizarre. I tried my best to maintain my original appearance. I was afraid that people would mistake me for a monster and burn me. Tang Jiao said pitifully. It was true. Who said that the ancients were stupid? They were very smart. This was especially true for people like the emperor and the princes. If she revealed even the slightest bit of difference, the other party would suspect her several times, thinking that she had some ulterior motives. If they knew that she was not the real Tang Jiao, these two would probably turn hostile and skin her alive. As long as I can avoid having my memories tampered with, I have a way to get out of this, Tanggua said. Actually, I also had a fortuitous encounter that complemented Jiao Jiao. Tang Jiao did not ask about Tanggua's fortuitous encounter, and Tanggua did not ask about Tang Jiao's fortuitous encounter either. It was as if they had tacitly agreed not to ask about these things. They were clearly two transmigrators, but for the same purpose, they actually pretended to be reborn. Sis, you've always had a lot of ideas since you were young. You've always been smarter than me. Since you're back, I'll listen to you. Tang Jiao spoke according to her memory of the way Tang Jiao and Tang Gua spoke. In the original plot, it was indeed like this. Tang Jiao's 4 arts were all taught by Tang Gua. Fupin Chinese Pinnacle. Chapter 1151. In fact, Tang Jiao couldn't sit still. She didn't like to sit down and listen to the teacher's lectures. However, Tang Guo was different. She was a lady from a respectable family and had been quiet since she was young. She learned everything she heard, and when she was free at night, she would ask Tang Jiao to learn from her. As for Tang Jiao, she was smart and listened to her sister. Therefore, even if she didn't listen to the teacher's lectures, she could still learn a lot. They had been together like this since they were young. Would Tang Jiao forget that they had hurt her sister just because of 2 men? That was why she was so obsessed with finding the mission enforcer. She paid a huge price in exchange for the mission enforcer's arrival and changed the fate of the most important person in her life so that she could live a happy life. Moreover, Tang Jiao believed that if she hadn't run around, she wouldn't have met Shangguan Yi and Shangguan Jing. Her sister wouldn't have been hurt, and she might even have been able to find a good man and live a happy life. 1 ton, 1 ton and 1 t/I. It was precisely because she was too jumpy that she ended up implicating her own sister in the family. When they met those 2 heartless and unscrupulous things, how could they resist? Tang Gua touched Tang Jiao's head lovingly and chuckled. Okay, you like freedom. I'll help you realize your wish. Tang Jiao felt a little jealous. It was so good to have such a considerate sister. If she had such a good sister, she wouldn't be willing to accept her fate. Sister, what should we do next? Tang Gua thought for a while and said, let's use our original memories and let them change our memories. Of course, this time, our memories won't be changed. Okay, I think so too. Tang Jiao nodded, thinking that it was a good idea. And then, Tang Gua narrowed her eyes. Don't they all like lively and cute girls like Jiao Jiao? Tang Jiao blushed. It was the first time she had been praised and she felt a little embarrassed. Jiao Jiao, can we sacrifice ourselves this time? Tang Jiao's interest was piqued. Sis, how should we sacrifice? She had a feeling that things would become very interesting. She knew from the plot that this lady was not a fool. However, there was no need for that. He had always followed the rules. Now that his mind was clear, it should be said that he had turned a little dark. She really liked this kind of character setting. She used to love it very much. It was the kind of character who was originally very kind, honest, and silently giving, but was betrayed, and in the end, turned evil and slapped in the face. Jiao Jiao will act as a lively fairy who is otherworldly and doesn't know the hardships of the people. She only knows how to recite poems and couplets and lives in men's minds. Once they encounter the cruel reality of life, they will realize why the fairy in their dreams is called the fairy in their dreams. It is because she can only live in dreams. Tang Jiao already had some understanding, but she was still a little off. Sis, can you explain more? I don't really understand. Then let me give you an example. The story of the scholar and the young lady. The scholar came from an ordinary family. The young lady had a noble status and was pampered as she grew up. She liked poetry and was not interested in worldly things and did not know the hardships of the people. The scholar's family chose a down-to-earth, virtuous wife for him, who was suitable for his status. However, he loved this young lady who had the same interests as him. He did not care about his family and insisted on being with her. As for the young lady, she also had a fiancé who was suitable for her status. However, in order to be with the scholar, she cut off all contact with her family. In the end, she successfully married into the scholar's family and the two of them lived the same life as before. The Peak. Chapter 1152. In the first month, they were in love. Their daily lives were pretty much the same as before. Although the food was a little rough, the daughter believed that she and the scholar were truly in love and did not care about these things. In the second month, the daughter and the scholar were still trying their best to maintain their life, but it was already a little different. In the following period, the trifles of life, habits, and living environment all created problems for them. The daughter was indeed the daughter. After all, she was used to a life of luxury. How could she get used to such a simple life? Wearing coarse clothes and reciting poems, there was something wrong with him. The scholar's family complained that the daughter did not know how to live and got into a conflict with the daughter. Over time, the scholar realized that the daughter only knew how to recite poems and spend money. Other than that, he could not see any other good points about her. Compared to the wives of his other friends, he suddenly felt that his wife was too extravagant and wasteful. She did not have the ability to take care of the family. Tang Jiao's eyes lit up. "Sister, I understand what you mean." Before she came, she had asked the three idiots to help her check on the affairs of King Jing's mansion. King Jing's mansion had been well managed by Tang Gua. Now that she knew that Tang Gua had been reborn, but she was still obediently being a princess. Something was not right. Now that she thought about it, her sister wanted to take revenge on these two men. She was holding back a big move. Now, both of them think that I'm the best. Tang Jiao sneered. Shengguan Jing only thinks that I'm good because he can't have me. Shengguan Yi only thinks that I'm different from other women. Shengguan Jing once had a crush on me. Once I'm pulled down from my pedestal and become a commoner, they won't think much of it. Tang Gua nodded. Jiao Jiao is still as smart as before. System, host, don't you have a conscience when you talk like this? After a pause, Tang Gua said, in my previous life, they played us in the palm of their hands. One of them betrayed me, the other abandoned me, causing me to die in a foreign land. After that, I'm afraid that Jiao Jiao's experience was not good either. It wasn't good. Not long after my sister died, I finally remembered everything. I tried to avenge my sister, but I was just a little girl. I was really useless. For the rest of my life, I would be snatched away and hurt by them. No matter what expression I had, they would think that there was someone else in my heart. You hurt me, apologized to me, and presented the best jewelry to me. Tang Jiao said gloomily, even if I'm dead, my soul is still floating above. They're still fighting over my body. They said that I wasn't dead, that I was still alive. It was summer at that time, and my body would quickly rot. They were unwilling to bury me. When my body was about to rot, they finally buried me. The funny thing was, they shook hands and made peace in front of the grave. He even said something like, "You both loved me deeply, so don't continue to hurt me." System, this is a pervert, isn't it? It turns out that Jiao Jiao's fate is even more tragic than mine. Tang Gua sighed and held Tang Jiao's hand. Don't worry. In this life, we will work together to take revenge. Okay. Tang Jiao replied. Tang Gua chuckled. Since they like to snatch and snatch, Jiao Jiao will first swindle them before her memories are replaced. Once her memories are replaced, Jiao Jiao, you can do something else. What is it? Tang Jiao asked with interest. Fupin Chinese Pinnacle. Chapter 1153. Tang Guo leaned close to her ear and said, "Torment Shangguan Jing well. You're a playful girl. Bring out all the mischievous ways you used to be when you were young and make a mess of his luminescent prince's mansion. When he's impatient, cry by his side. Cry so hard and so pitifully until his heart softens and he thinks that he's making a big mistake by not making a scene for you." Tang Zhao's eyes widened. This is really amazing. She really didn't expect that this well-bred young lady would come up with such a wicked idea. Jiao Jiao is the fairy of his dreams. He won't give up on you until the very end. When his patience reaches its lowest point and he's free, he'll remember the luminescent princess who once took care of the luminescent prince's mansion. Tang Guo grinned and continued, "At this time, Jiao Jiao, you can make a scene. He'll tell you often how much he loves you and how much he likes you. When he ignores you and takes out his old lover's item, you can continue to torment him and ask him if he's had a change of heart. 1 ton, 1 ton and 1 T/I. Tang Jiao, awesome. Shangguan Jing will go crazy, right?" Tang Guo's lips turned cold as she continued, "During this time, Shangguan Yi will definitely snatch you back to the palace. Just pretend that you're not willing. Jiao Jiao's memories have been changed, right? But you can occasionally express that something is wrong and make Shangguan Yi feel that he can get your memories back. Of course, don't forget to torment him as much as you can." Tang Jiao understood. What she had to do was to put on an act in front of these two men who claimed to love her. She had to do her best to torment them. Also, don't forget to sow discord between the two brothers from time to time. Tang Jiao's lips twitched. This older sister is too two-faced. She's completely blackened. But it's really cool. She had already become a fan of this blackened older sister. She could be considered her biological older sister now. It's best if you can sow discord between the two of them. It'll be best if you can injure each of them with a palm strike. When both of them are injured, you can go up and watch them cry, saying that it's all your fault." Tang Guo took a sip of tea and continued, "At first, they were a little resentful. Why did they fight over a woman? But after you said that, they will feel guilty and hate the other party even more. They will feel that you are wronged by the other party." When Tang Jiao heard Tang Guo say a lot, she couldn't help but communicate with her 3 idiots. "Actually, even without me, this two-faced sister would still play these two to death, right?" From Tang Guo's words, the host will also play a very important role. Without the host's existence, this plan will not work. I think the plan is perfect. However, you can ask about your escape plan. Tang Jiao asked, "Then, sis, how are we going to escape? Won't I be sent away?" Hearing Tang Guo's words, Tang Jiao panicked. "Sis, I'm here. I won't let you be sent away." "Jiao Jiao," Tang Guo shook her head and said, "For this plan to work, I have to be sent away. Don't worry, I will protect myself. If I don't leave, this plan will not work. Before I leave, I will leave behind enough memories for them to remember and leave a deep impression on them." Tang Jiao also thought of something and said, "Is it really okay? Can we meet in the future?" "Of course." Tang Guo patted Tang Jiao's head. Tang Jiao was already used to it. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1154. Tang Jiao didn't have an elder sister, so she was happy to be doted on by such an elder sister. "Don't you like freedom? I said before that I will let you be free and go wherever you want." Tang Guo continued, "As for these two men, we sisters have to work together to take revenge." "Okay, I will listen to elder sister. You always have a card up your sleeve." While the two sisters were discussing how to torment the two brothers, Shangguan Yi and Shangguan Jing were discussing other things in the study. "Jing Wang, it seems that you have married the right princess. Look at the entire Jing residence, it is so orderly. Jing Princess Consort is really capable. She is worthy of being Consort Zhao's elder sister. Shangguan Yi said while observing Shangguan Jing's expression. Shangguan Jing couldn't help but think of what Tang Guo had done in the residence in the past half a year, as well as this talented and virtuous woman. Hearing Shangguan Yi mention Tang Zhao, he couldn't help but say, Princess Consort is naturally a good person. Chindi has to thank Imperial Brother for your kindness. Chindi later found out that many matriarchs hoped to marry Princess Consort as their daughter-in-law. 1 ton, 1 ton and 1 t/I. Chindi has indeed picked up a treasure. Princess Consort not only knows how to manage the household, but also knows how to manage the shop. She also knows how to play the zither, go, calligraphy, and painting. Speaking of which, she is also a talented woman. Oh. Shangguan Yi was a little surprised. Shen has only heard that the eldest daughter of the minister's residence has learned how to manage the household since she was young. She is very popular in the circle of madams. I have never heard that she is also proficient in the zither, go, calligraphy, and painting. Seeing Shangguan Yi's surprised look, Shangguan Jing felt a little comfortable and couldn't help but continue to show off. Princess Consort not only writes well, but also paints well. She is also proficient in cooking. To tell you the truth, Chindi's lunch and dinner were personally prepared by Princess Consort. Shangguan Yi was really surprised at Shangguan Jing's flaunting appearance. Could it be that this eldest daughter of the minister's residence is really so good? Imperial Brother, you don't seem to believe it. We do not believe it. After all, seeing is believing. Shangguan Jing smiled inwardly. He turned his head and said to the manservant beside him, Go, ask Wang Fei for some of her usual calligraphy. Also, for tonight's dinner, please ask Wang Fei to make 2 side dishes. Shangguan Jing thought for a while and said, Don't make too much, so as not to tire Wang Fei out. The last sentence was purely to show Shangguan Yi how much he valued this Wang Fei. Not long after, the servant took out a few of Tang Guo's paintings and presented them to Shangguan Yi. Before looking at these paintings, Shangguan Yi suspected the truth of the matter. But after looking at it, he was really amazed. He did not doubt that Shangguan Jing would deceive him with a fake one. Looking at Shangguan Jing's complacent look, how could it be fake? No wonder this imperial brother of his had forgotten about Consort Zhao just because he had a princess consort. It was because this princess consort was too powerful. Seeing Shangguan Yi's shocked expression, Shangguan Jing was extremely pleased. He rolled up his sleeve and showed it to Shangguan Yi. Imperial brother, what do you think this is? He lifted his foot and showed a symbol on it to Shangguan Yi. Look here, it's also here. Also, Imperial brother, look at my sachet, it's also here. Shangguan Jing raised it and waved it in front of Shangguan Yi's eyes. That symbol was clearer than the previous 2 places. Therefore, Shangguan Yi recognized that it was a totem formed by the character Jing. Fupin Chinese vertex. Chapter 1155. My wife made all these. Isn't she awesome? Shangguan Yi had to nod and praise, yes, she's very awesome. This woman's mind was really exquisite. It could be said that she was good at both the main hall and the kitchen. As for the kitchen, he was looking forward to what kind of delicious food could make his brother, who had always been picky about food, treat it differently. When Tang Guo learned of Shangguan Jing's request, she told the servants to prepare the ingredients for the side dishes to be made tonight. After the servants left, Tang Zhao asked, Sister, you're preparing food for him. Tang Zhao asked in surprise, How can you make all these by yourself? Although this young lady from a noble family was proficient in everything, she had never suffered like this when she was in the minister's mansion. Tang Zhao felt indignant in her heart. These 2 brothers were really annoying. And Zhao Zhao, don't you understand what I said just now? Tang Guo looked at her meaningfully, stretched out her white and slender fingers, and said with a smile, there are millions of people in the world who can cook well, but the taste of the dishes made by each person is very different. If it's done deliberately, it will leave a deeper impression on people who are picky about food. Some things, when you get used to it, you'll feel strange if it's suddenly gone. Tang Jiao had goosebumps all over her body. She understood Tang Guo's meaning. Then I'll accompany you to the kitchen for dinner. Okay. Shengguan Jing had been very sleepy for most of the day and had bragged to Shengguan Yi about how good his wife was. He did not dare to disturb Shengguan Yi and went to see Tang Jiao for fear of alerting the enemy. In fact, he was a little happy that Tang Jiao was in his mansion. Because he did not have a good rest, when he played chess with Shengguan Yi, it was inevitable that he was absent-minded and lost several games in a row. When Shengguan Yi saw this, he teased, "Luminescent prince, why are you so distracted? Could it be that you're thinking about your good princess consort?" "That's right, you two haven't met since I arrived. However, Prince Jing, you have to understand that the princess consort and consort Zhao's sisterly relationship is very deep. It's not good for us to disturb them." "I know." Shengguan Jing tried hard to keep his eyes open. He was very dissatisfied with the servants who came to clean the yard in the middle of the night. However, Shengguan Yi seemed to have completely let down his guard. He could now slowly plan how to keep Zhao in his mansion. At dinner, there were several side dishes prepared by Tang Guo herself. With Shengguan Jing's special instructions, the dishes she prepared looked simple. Anyone who knew how to eat would understand the key points after taking a bite. Moreover, she would not stop listening to him. Shengguan Yi was currently in such a situation. She took a bite out of curiosity. Unexpectedly, she didn't stop eating. She didn't even care about the Tang Jiao anymore. Not to mention, he had the intention of letting Tang Jiao eat it too. When Shengguan Yi ate so happily, Tang Jiao silently complained in her heart, what happened to the promised true love? Just one dish and she showed her true colors. She was just a concubine. How would she dare to snatch food from Shengguan Yi? Fortunately, when she was in the kitchen, she had already eaten better than these. It was so good to be a daughter of a noble family. She was so good at cooking and she was her sister. In the future, she would have an excuse to come to Prince Jing's mansion often. Not for anything else, but for the sake of eating, she had to come. And she believed that Shengguan Yi wanted to come too. Shengguan Jing could only watch as the dishes made by Tang Guo went into Shengguan Yi's mouth. Fupin Chinese the Apex. Chapter 1156. At the same time, he felt a little uncomfortable. This was made by his princess, but his brother was eating happily. Shengguan Yi unknowingly ate all the dishes made by Tang Guo. After eating, he looked a little embarrassed. Following that, he praised her and lost his appetite for the rest of the delicacies. He tried a few mouthfuls, but felt that they were not as good as the previous dishes. After the meal, Shengguan Yi took Tang Jiao back to the palace overnight. Tang Jiao deliberately tugged at Shengguan Yi's sleeve at the gate of Prince Jing's mansion and said, "Your Majesty, I want to see my sister often." "Can I?" "Of course." After eating a delicious meal, Shengguan Yi was in a good mood. He said, "Then on the 1st and 15th of every month, I will allow concubine Zhao to see the princess. What do you think?" "Thank you, Your Majesty." The four people present were very satisfied with Shengguan Yi's decision. Shengguan Yi thought that he could be late for such delicious food the next time he came. Shengguan Jing thought that if he could see Tang Jiao twice a month, it would be much easier to arrange things. Tang Guo and Tang Jiao looked at each other. That would be great. Shengguan Yi's carriage disappeared in front of them. Shangguan Jing's smile did not disappear. He looked back at Tang Gua and said, Your Highness, you did well today. When concubine Zhao comes in the future, stay well. Understood, Your Highness. Tang Gua replied. Then she observed Shangguan Jing's expression. Your Highness doesn't look well. You must be tired. You'd better rest early. Shangguan Jing did feel very tired after hearing her words. It was all because of those insensible servants. He turned and was about to go in when he suddenly found that Tang Guo also looked tired. He said, Your Highness, you've been busy all day. You should rest early. With that, he looked at the woman in front of him. Her originally dignified expression had changed into a smile, and her eyes had brightened. At the same time, she replied in a light tone, Yes, thank you for your concern. Shangguan Jing turned his head and strode into the room. What a narcissistic woman. It was only because she had persuaded Zhao to come to the manor often, and also because she had helped him dispel his imperial brother's suspicions about him that he had casually said those words. She actually took it seriously. Did she really think that by doing this, she would be able to obtain his love and sincerity? This woman looked smart, but in fact, she was stupid and naive. Fortunately, she was an obedient one, so he didn't fuss over such trivial matters with her. In the future, if Zhao was transferred to the residence, with this woman's ability, it would be easy for her to gain Shangguan Yi's favor. Being the emperor's concubine was much better than being a princess consort. She could be considered to have climbed up the social ladder. Host, look at him. Who does he think he is? Nowadays, the system really didn't like people who bullied its host, especially this kind of scumbag. It really wanted the other party to explode on the spot. Tang Gua chuckled softly. What's the point of being angry? Instead of getting angry, Tongzi, you should think about how to hook up with that little Shota system. From my experience, that 3 twos should belong to a genuine system. Who knows, you might be able to get some useful information out of him. Host, it's easy to get information from 3 twos. As long as you let me, I'll eat him in one bite. Everything he has will be mine, and I can even level up. Fupin Chinese Vertex. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.